Okay, so uh, here's the way that it works is you create a catalog. And when you open Lightroom for the very first time, if there are no existing catalogs on your computer that the software can find, it creates one for you. So by virtue of opening Lightroom the very first time, you automatically created a catalog. Where that catalog is, we'll talk about in a second. But what happens is that catalog, that database, as you import photographs into Lightroom, it keeps track of where they are. The database, the catalog, also keeps track of all of the developing and metadata decisions and changes that you make to your files. Okay. And for those of you that have dabbled in Lightroom a little bit, metadata things are items such as keywords, ratings, selections, whether you've added them to collections or not. If you have added any of your personal information into the files, like your copyright information, right? So when you make changes in Lightroom, you are not making changes to the original file, regardless what format it is. So for the vast majority of photographers, there are three file types that we most typically import into Lightroom. RAW files, JPEGs, and TIFFs. There are others, but those form the lion's share of the photos that people put into Lightroom. When you make an adjustment, whether it's a developing adjustment or a metadata adjustment to the file, nothing happens to the photo itself. The photo is not touched, harmed, or abused in any way by the software. All of the changes that you made are kept in the catalog, which means that if the catalog gets destroyed, you've lost all the work. The pictures themselves are undamaged, but if you lose the catalog or it gets corrupted, you lost all of the effort you put into the work that you did, which is why you should back your catalog up. Okay, so another thing about catalogs, and I think I've had this conversation with a couple of you, like I said, when you open Lightroom the very first time, it creates a default catalog in the default catalog location, which may or may not be where you want it to be stored, which is fine. You can move catalogs. You can decide, that's stupid, I'm going to start a catalog and store it somewhere else. You can have multiple catalogs. You can only open one at a time, but you can have multiple catalogs. So for example, here at the studio, the way that we organize our work is we create a catalog for each client. Every client has their own catalog, and in some ways that works for us really well. Sometimes it not so much, but for 90% of what we do, having a separate catalog for each of our clients is very helpful for a couple reasons. Every year, between the 5 of us here at the studio, we shoot about 250,000 photographs a year. Regardless of what Adobe says, as your catalog starts to get large, it slows down. It becomes less efficient and runs slowly. Adobe swears this doesn't happen, but all of the users, people that use it, say that it does. And the general consensus is somewhere around 15 to 20,000 photos on your catalog, and you start to see a decrease in speed and efficiency with Lightroom. So preventing your catalogs from getting too big is one reason to have multiple catalogs. When you start to have that many photos, there are other reasons that you may want to have multiple catalogs. And like I said, for us here at the studio, we do it by client, and it keeps people's photos separate, and it keeps the catalogs small. We'll talk about creating multiple catalogs or additional catalogs here in a little bit. But it's really important to understand that when you make changes, you're making changes, every change you make in Lightroom is to the catalog, not to the picture. Unlike Photoshop, which when you go into Photoshop and open a file, you are changing that file. Okay, that's not the way Lightroom works, which is one of its great features. Okay, questions about any of that? That's like super important. Okay.
Just one quick question about, will you be talking more about TIFFs?
Not really a lot in particular. Is there something in particular that you?
Yeah, I've stumbled across lossless TIFFs, like LV something TIFFs.
Okay. All TIFFs are lossless. That's why it's a file type that became popular in the first place. I think personally, I think TIFFs have outlived their usefulness with everybody working in RAW, or not everybody, but most people being comfortable working in RAW. Uh, uh, all TIFFs are lossless. I think I'm 90% sure all TIFFs are lossless. But it's an old format and it's inefficient in the way that they store information. So they tend to be really, really large.
Yeah,
Unnecessary.
I just discovered my ancient iOS device will produce TIFFs, but not RAW.
And that was not uncommon. Before RAW became a thing, like my first digital camera, for example, my very first one, my options were JPEGs and TIFFs. RAW wasn't an option then because everyone figured no one will ever be able to deal with the raw data. And then that changed. And TIFFs refused to die. So, but as far as Lightroom goes, Lightroom handles all of them the same. There's no difference between RAW files, TIFFs, JPEGs, BMPs, anything that you can import into the program.
Thanks.
Okay, so here's the deal. When you create a new catalog or open Lightroom for the first time, there are no photographs in it. You're looking at this big gray blank screen, and a lot of people are like, I don't know what to do. This is like not friendly. All right, so what happens is when you have a catalog, whether it's a new or an existing catalog, you are going to import photographs into the catalog. A couple things to keep in mind here is that when you import a photo into Lightroom, you are creating a link in the catalog that tells the catalog where that file is. So since we're all old enough to remember this, back when I was a kid, you used to go to the library, and down by the librarian's desk was the card catalog. And you went into the card catalog and you looked up the book that you wanted and you pulled out the card and it told you that the book that you're looking for is on the second floor of the library, shelf 15, or row 15, shelf 4. And it was an instruction on where to go and get the book off the shelf. That's exactly the way that Lightroom works. So when you import photos into Lightroom, Lightroom does not move them anywhere, does not copy them anywhere. It simply tells the database, the catalog, this is where that photograph is. So when the owner of this photograph makes adjustments to it in Lightroom, this is the reference photo that you're going to apply those adjustments to. That's it. Which is another important thing. So once you import photos into Lightroom, you need to manage them always, 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 always. I'm pounding my foot on the floor for those that were in the military. You always need to manage those photos from inside Lightroom. All right, and the reason why is that Lightroom, when you import the photo into Lightroom, it creates that link. Okay, it's called a pointer, is what the technical term for it. But it creates a link, or it points to that photo. All right. And as long as Lightroom knows where that photo is, where the pointer is still correct, everything's fine. If you go outside of Lightroom and rename the file, rename the folder that it's in, or move the photo or move the folder, Lightroom doesn't know that you did that. And it still thinks it was where you told it was. And then you get a broken link or a broken pointer because Lightroom has lost the location. Now, the good news is, the designers of Lightroom realize that this could happen, and there are ways that you can reestablish the link, but it's tedious. Well, it can be tedious. So it's always important that once you put photos into Lightroom, if you want to move them to a different folder, do that from inside Lightroom. Don't do it in Finder for Mac users, and don't do it inside Windows Explorer for PC users. That's super important. Okay, and again, I can't emphasize this enough. The software Lightroom makes no changes to your original file. All the changes are kept as information in Lightroom. Good?
So we don't have access to the original image then, is that correct?
Well, you do, but the thing is, Lightroom doesn't touch it, not directly.
Okay.
All right. So, for example, there are multiple, and we can get into we'll get into this next week when we start talking about editing. But when you edit a photo in Lightroom, you are making adjustments to the database that shows you if you were to create a new file from this this photo with these changes, this is what it's going to look like. Okay. If for some reason you absolutely positively have to change the original file, the software to do that is Lightroom. Raw files are never touched by any application. I don't know of any editing software that actually goes in and operates directly on a raw file. All of them. Lightroom, Photoshop, GIMP, everything I've ever used, when you work on raw files, it uses that like a negative to create a new image. You can move from it. Maybe I don't quite understand the question, Don, but you can move files and delete files and rename files and do all that kind of stuff from inside Lightroom.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So again, Lightroom is a non-destructive editor. Makes no changes to your original file. At any time, if you've been working on a photo for 2 years and made 6 million changes to it, which is actually not uncommon, you can hit the start over button and all the changes that you made are dumped and it goes back to the file as it was when you imported it. There's an ultimate number of do-overs.
Is it easy to do that accidentally?
Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. But even if you undo it accidentally, you can even recover from that too. Okay. And when we get to the editing thing, there's a big button that says reset down in the lower right-hand corner. We'll talk about that. Okay. So the thing is that if Lightroom's not making any changes, then what's really happening? So this is what happens, is that when you have a photo imported into Lightroom, the software knows where it is, and it goes to that location, and when you pull that photo into the window to edit, it pulls up that image based on any based on the image file. Okay. And then as you make changes to it, let's say you add some contrast, pull up the saturation, pull the shadows up, make the blacks a little bit darker, make the highlights a little bit brighter. All those changes that you're making are just numbers in the catalog. They're control settings. And what Lightroom shows you is a preview that basically says, if you export this file right now and create a new file, this is what it's going to look like. Okay? And the original file stays as a negative. That's a good way to think of it for those of us that remember film. You're not making changes to the original file. You're making changes in the database, and what you see on the screen is a preview of what a final outputted or exported file would look like. And you can make infinite export copies. You can what if yourself to death. Say, well, what if this one had a green cast? And what if I made Marco's face blue on this one? And what if I made his pants red on this one? You could output multiple images from the same photo simply by making changes and then exporting them, just as if you were working with a negative. Which is why they called the program Lightroom, which is kind of a play on the darkroom thing. Okay, got no laughs there. All righty. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm gonna have all of you open Lightroom, and what I want to do is go around the digital room, so to speak, and have each of you share your screen with me after you get it open. Right? Because there's two things I want to check. I want to see where you are, and I want to make sure that you can share your screen with me. So let's see, Anita, we did that yesterday. So Don, let's start with you.
Okay, I still got your screen up. Can I go over the top of it?
Yeah, so what you're gonna do is go down in the middle. There's a button that says share. Oh, I gotta stop mine. Hold on. Okay.
There you go. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
So
Did it come up?
yeah, it did.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, good. All right. Do me a favor, expand the film strip at the bottom, please. Yep.
This one?
Yep. I just wanted to see where we were. Okay, good. All right, that's good. So let's see. Chuck, let's have you go next. Okay. Same thing. Chuck, expand the bottom and the left panel for me real quick, please.
Yeah, there's only one image, so it won't. There's no other film strip.
Just go ahead and expand the left panel, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, good. So that's good, Chuck. So drop off. Let's see, Ginger, you're next.
Is that it? No?
Okay, and okay, so it looks like you're in Lightroom Mobile.
Oh, so I have to do a different one.
Yeah, you want to be in the classic.
Okay.
So when you downloaded this, you probably have two different Lightroom icons.
Okay, let me see.
And Mac users, at any time, please feel free to jump in and help me because I am not a Mac user. I can stumble around through one, but I'm not real polished with the PC, which is why I had Addie help Tina the other day.
I'm not sure why I know my son did something with the mobile, but I don't know if he changed my thing because I don't see another icon in my apps.
Okay, this doesn't look like the mobile, but it,
I mean, it says get started with Lightroom mobile and then an arrow, but.
All right, do me a favor, Ginger, click on the library module, please.
Okay.
And then minimize the navigator.
Minimize, so go here.
Yep.
Okay.
And then, okay, this is a desktop version.
Okay.
The mobile thing made me panic there for a second.
Okay.
All right, good.
So I'm good.
Okay,
Okay.
good. All right. All right, so go ahead and drop off.
Okay.
So you're just in the top of the screen, stop sharing.
Stop sharing. Oh, okay.
Okay, so let's see. Tina, you're next. And here we go. Okay.
You want me to make that bigger or am I good?
That's good. That's perfect. Okay, good. All right, go ahead and drop off. And then Lorelei, let's go ahead and pull yours up.
What did I do?
Okay, so we're good there. We've got,
So I haven't imported anything because
that's
my
fine.
Lightroom is clean because I had to transfer it from my laptop and then I moved it back into this desktop.
Okay,
That's
so let's
why.
drop out of the import dialog box for right now.
Okay,
So just hit cancel. Should be in the lower right-hand corner.
okay, sure. Okay, all right.
Okay. And, okay. All righty. Good. All right, that's great. Go ahead and drop off. That's everything I needed to see.
There you go.
That's
Got it.
All right. So everybody's got it up and running. All right. So what we're going to do
Marco,
is, again?
could I try mine just because
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
I don't have confidence in this yet. Okay.
Okay,
All right.
All right.
Okay.
You just wanted to show off. That's all.
No,
Yeah,
I did not.
we know you.
Yeah.
No way.
So,
So bad.
it's okay for everybody to be mean to Anita because she refuses to share her photographs with the group. She's hogging all of her beautiful work to herself.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I'm gonna go.
Okay. All right. I guess that would be seen as a form of bullying, which I guess is not a good thing. All right.
That's all right.
But I know it's done with love, so that's all that matters.
Okay.
Do team bullying.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up my special version of Lightroom. And give me a sec. Okay. So all right, so can everybody see my desktop now?
Yes.
And can you see my cursor moving around?
Yes.
Yes.
It's weird that that's over there. Okay. Okay, so I want to make sure that the stuff that I want to do is all here. All right, so can you see the green box that I just drew?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, good. Okay, so what I want to do is a short orientation to the software and talk about things that will be similar in each of the modules. So, goodness gracious, come on. I'm having an instructor problem. There we go. All right. So when you come in, there's this area over here. Some of you are able to have gone in already and changed your ID. It's kind of it doesn't change the way the software actually operates. But some folks like to do it. Okay, so if you come over to this, the header thing, and you click on it, you click directly on the little caret. I call these carrots. Okay, I had an issue the other day, but these are called carrots or arrows. All right. If you click on the arrow itself, you get a couple options. Right. Most of these I find not helpful. So for right now, we're going to skip them. If you right click, you get a pop-up dialog box. And you have the option to use the Adobe ID, which if you've logged in, if you have an Adobe account, it'll automatically pull your name and stuff. And some of you have done that. You can use the default generic window screen, or you can come down and personalize it. Okay? A lot of the screen can be personalized. Not all of it, but a lot of it. So one of the things that you could do is come down here to personalize, and it changes. All of a sudden, nothing looks good. Okay. So I'm going to come down here and say Edit Identity Plate, which works with personalized. And it pulls up the personalized window. So I could put anything here. Okay, so I'm going to put Lightroom class. And then I need to change the size of these because they're too big. So I'm going to make these about 24. That's still too big. I'm going to make them 10. That's good, right? I can change the font if I want on these, but we're not going to get into that. All right. So now instead of the generic, I've got Lightroom class. And if I decide to, I come over here, right click again, and I can go back to the others and cycle through them. Okay. All right. It's not a big deal. This has absolutely no effect on anything else that happens in Lightroom. Some people just like to adjust this because they like the way it looks. All right. So the next area that we're going to talk about are the modules across the top. Okay. There are 7 modules in Lightroom, and I'm going to make this smaller. I'm going to go back to this version so you can see all of them. Library, and the default when you open Lightroom, particularly for the first time, is it will open in the library module. After that, it typically opens where it was when you closed it. Okay. The develop module, super important. The map module, I think, is probably one of the dumbest modules they've ever added to Lightroom. Okay. The book and the print modules are 2 variations of the same thing, but they're for creating stuff that you're going to print yourself, and we are not going to cover these. The print module in particular is for when you print at home from a printer, which is something that, unless you're a super geeky, need super positive control over your final images, is something I recommend that you don't do. We here at the studio, we don't print our stuff ourselves. We used to. But it was way too expensive, way too time consuming. So we send our stuff out to a lab, and we do that directly from the develop module. Okay. Here at the studio, we spend 95% of our time in the library and the develop modules. The slideshow module we use periodically when we're showing stuff to people. And then the web module is for printing directly to websites, uploading photos to websites. Okay, so here, because we don't use most of these features, we like to keep the top of the thing cleaner. So you can, if you come over here and right click, it pulls up a little dialog box, and you can shut off any modules that you don't want to see. It doesn't delete them, it just doesn't show them to you. And so typically, this is the way that we leave Lightroom here with just these 3 modules, because these are the only 3 that we use. Okay. Are any of you guys printing at home?
No.
And high-end printers printing at home, or are you sending stuff out?
Sending stuff out.
Send it out.
Okay. So if you're going to send stuff out, I recommend, my recommendation is that you don't do it from the print module, although it's possible that you do it from the export module inside the develop screen. Okay. Actually, there's multiple ways to get to it. All right. So if you decide that you want to turn these back on, you can just come down here and click show all, and they'll all pop back up. Again, this does not affect how the program operates. It's just whether you see these things or not. Okay. So coming back over to, okay.
What did you say the book was?
If you were going to print like an album or a book, it's a way to create a layout that you can, in theory, print yourself or send to a lab. And we tried using it when that module was first introduced, and it was not as efficient as doing it other ways. It's kind of a tool that they added in because a lot of people started doing books at home, but it's clunky. We use other software in conjunction with Photoshop to do our books. Or we design them online. So, all right, so let's see. All right, so we're gonna come back up here. Ah, that's not what I want. Okay, so we're gonna take a look at these real quick, because these are also ways that you can access tools. Not used as frequently as other tools. And this is one of the big differences between PCs and Macs, are where a couple things are, okay? This area up here is going to look slightly differently on a Mac than it does on a PC. For PC users, you should see File, Edit, Library, Photo, Metadata, View, Window, and Help. Mac users, I think you have one more icon on that list, right? Or no?
I don't see that.
Are any of you Mac users seeing anything before File up at the very top?
No,
Yeah.
I have file, edit, library, photo, metadata, view, window, help.
Okay, that's what I've got. All right. So what we're going to do is in File, when we click the dialog, there are a couple tools in here that we're going to talk about now, and there's some we're going to come back to later. So the first thing is that the top 3 items are creating a new catalog, opening an existing catalog, and opening recent. So for example, when I go down to recent, because we use Lightroom a lot here, it's showing you the 9 most recent catalogs that we've opened. Okay, and you can see that there's lots of different things in here, and it's part of the way that we organize our work here. And this is really important. What works for me and what works for the folks at Adobe and Joe Bob Bill that writes a Lightroom blog aren't necessarily going to work for you. The way that you think and the way that works the best for you is the way that you should organize and use Lightroom. All right, so, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So when you open Lightroom, because we've all opened it once already, we all have a catalog. So does anybody here have more than one catalog?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you open a catalog or Lightroom, it will open the last catalog that it had open when it closed. It always assumes you want to pick up where you left off. So it's going to open the catalog that you had open when you closed the program. Okay. If you only have one catalog, that's fine. Okay. So we've got a bunch of import tools here, none of which we're going to cover right now. We're going to come back to, we'll talk briefly about importing from another catalog. Most folks don't do that. Chuck, you're going to need to do this eventually. When
Correct.
you want to clean up all of your files, this is the tool that you're going to use to get there. Okay. All right. These are this is one of the many ways to export files from your computer. Okay. You can email stuff, plugins. We're not going to talk about plugins just right now. And these have to do with the quick collection, which is another tool that I've never been real fond of in Lightroom. Okay, so those are the biggies here in File. We're going to come back over and we're going to click on Edit. So what I'd like everybody to do is click on Edit for me. And way down at the bottom of the dialog box that pops up, down in here, there should be an item called Preferences and Catalog Settings. Does everybody see that? Up here in the upper left-hand corner, click on the word Edit, and you'll get a drop-down dialog.
Yes.
All right. At the bottom of the dialog, you should see Preferences and Catalog. Does anybody not see that?
I don't see that. I don't have mine. I don't know what I'm. No.
Click on Edit, Ginger. What do you wind up seeing?
So edit, like at the top of my thing, it says Lightroom, File, Edit, Library, all that.
Right.
Undo selection, redo, cut, copy, paste, delete, select all, select none, invert selection, select only active photo, deselect active photo.
That's what I'm seeing also.
Okay, so what I want you all to do is click on File instead, the Mac users,
Okay.
and then down
Okay.
near the bottom, you should see Preferences and Catalog Settings.
No. I see new catalog, open recent, optimize catalog, import photos and video,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I see.
That's what you guys are seeing?
That's what I see on my Mac.
Yeah, I have Mac too. Export, export with previous, export with preset, but there's none.
Okay, and they weren't, preferences and catalog settings were not at the bottom of the list under edit?
No.
Give me just a sec. This is one of the dumb things that Adobe did, is for some reason they put these two things in different places. All right, so all of you Mac users, do you see the word in that title bar at the top, Lightroom?
Yes.
Click that instead. It's going to be in there.
I got it. Preferences. Lightroom. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Why they did that is beyond me. And it always throws me as to where they put it. Okay. So what I want you to do is you're going to go to catalog settings and click on it.
Okay.
And you should get a dialog box that pops up that's titled Catalog Settings with 3 tabs: General, File Handling, and Metadata.
Yes.
Anybody not see that? Okay, good. With the General tab highlighted, the first item, it'll say Information, and it says Location, and then there'll be an address behind it. All right, so that address is where your catalog is located.
Wait, could you back,
Okay.
could you back up again? I had a flashback of when I almost lost my catalog that time, and I missed, I missed something. I brought up the box that says catalog settings, general.
Right.
And then what?
And then underneath it, you'll see an item that says location.
Yeah,
All right. That location is where your catalog is located.
right.
That's
Okay.
that's the place in your computer. If you were to navigate to it in either Windows Explorer or Finder, this is where you would go to get there. So
Right.
one thing that you should see is right off to the right of the location is the button that says Show. Go ahead and
Right.
click it.
So this has me in one of my catalogs. Is that what it should show?
Right. This is the location of the currently open catalog.
Got it. Okay.
Right? So if you click on Show, it'll open either Finder or Windows Explorer, and it will take you to the folder where your catalog is located. So my catalog for this class is in a folder called, wait for it, Catalog for Class.
Uh-oh.
If I open that catalog, that folder, it takes me inside where the catalog is. And don't touch anything in here, okay? Just trust me on this for right now. This is one of the ways that you can mess stuff up if you're not careful. All right, so inside the folder where your catalog is located, and every time you create a catalog, it creates a folder with a file that has an abbreviation called LRCat, which is for, wait for it, Lightroom Catalog, with the name that you gave it. And then there are 2 folders there, typically, the helper and the previews. And
Are we
these
supposed to be clicked on the folder that we went to?
Yeah, if you open that folder up, you should see something similar to what you're seeing on my screen. There should be 2 folders, a file, and then a thing called .lock and LRCat-wall or something similar, because they're slightly different on Macs.
Okay, gotcha.
All right, so the reason I'm bringing you here is every now and then you'll go to open Lightroom and something odd will happen. Let's say you were working on Lightroom and the power went out and the computer shut down. This file that's called .lock tells the computer that Lightroom is currently open and nobody else can use that catalog file. If the program shuts down and you didn't close it, this locked file doesn't go away. And when you try to open Lightroom again, it'll tell you someone else is using it. And you're like, wait, nobody can be using it because I'm the only one on the computer. The problem is that this lock file was not deleted. When you close Lightroom, Lightroom will delete the lock file and the other, the dash wall file, okay? Because those are files that it uses to say, this catalog's open and being used, right? So if you have a catalog and you were using it yesterday, and then you open it and it says you can't have access to it, you go to where the catalog is. And this is why it's important to put them where you want them, as opposed to letting the computer just stick them someplace for you so you can find them. But just go and delete these 2 files, and then the software will open. Okay, so let's go ahead and close that folder and go back to Lightroom.
Before we go away, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm looking at my .lrcat file, and it tells me it's got 285 megabytes. Is that small, medium, or large?
That's small.
Okay.
What will happen is that when Lightroom starts to get big, the file in particular that gets large is this previews folder, because the previews folder will hold snapshots of the photos.
Okay, mine's 5.4 gig.
And that's not atypical for a medium to small catalog.
Okay.
We have some catalogs that are really, really big, which is why we stopped using them. Okay.
So Marco, just to check, so to delete mine says catalog .lock and Lightroom catalog .aircat.lock. I would delete both of those?
Yes. That's only if you go to open Lightroom and it tells you that it can't open that catalog that someone else is using it.
Okay.
Because it means that Lightroom didn't shut down properly and it didn't delete those 2 files, which it does on its own.
Okay.
When you go to open Lightroom, there should only be 2 folders in there, the previews folder. Let me go back. Come on. You should only have the helper folder, the previews folder, and the LRCat, or there might be multiple versions of the LRCat, but anything that's not either a folder or an LRCat file, it doesn't need.
So like I have an LR data and a T journal. Is that the same thing?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have temporary import data, DB journal, can you delete those? Should you just clean up that
Nope,
whole thing? And no?
Don't do it while you're currently working in a catalog. If Lightroom's open, if you've got that catalog open, don't delete any of these files while you have Lightroom open. Okay.
Is it an important housekeeping thing to every now and then close out Lightroom and go into this and clean up anything?
No. The only reason to really go in there to clean stuff up is if you can't open the catalog.
Okay. Is it normal to have like 4 different Lightroom catalogs showing? Like I have one from 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020.
Yes, and that's the other reason I brought you all in here, is as they update Lightroom, as they add certain tools to it, the LRCat files change the way that they work. And so frequently what will happen is you'll update Lightroom. Let's say at the end of this month, you get a note, hey, there's an update for Lightroom. So you go ahead and you update your version of Lightroom. Whenever you update your version of Lightroom, the old LRCat file won't work. Okay, actually, yeah, it won't work. So what will happen is that when you go to open that catalog file, Lightroom will pop up a thing and say, hey, this version of Lightroom, this catalog is not compatible with the version you've got. Do you want to update it? And you just say yes. And what it will do is it'll create a new LRCat file in the same location, typically with blah, 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 .lrcat-2. We have some folders that we've been using for years. We're up to like LRCat-12. It just keeps adding a new one. They are not rearwardly compatible. So you can always go back and open the old catalog again with the newer version, and it'll say, oh, do you want to create a new version of it? And it just sticks them in there right on top of the older versions. We have a tendency to just leave them, obviously, since we've got 12 old ones, because the LRCat files themselves typically don't get really huge. It's the previews and the helper folders that get really, really large.
Marco, I got out of that. Will you remind me again? So I go up to Lightroom Classic, click on Preferences.
Yeah.
It looks,
I think settings, wasn't it
Yeah,
settings?
catalog settings.
oh, okay. Well, I would say it looks different. Okay, got it. Mhm.
I have one more question. In
Okay.
this thing where it had all that LRCat, the L data, the journal and stuff, I have two different folders. One says 2017 and one says backups. What would that be?
It looks like you're storing your backup where your catalog is. There's a folder that says backup, right?
Right.
Double click on the backup folder and look in there and see what it looks like.
Okay. A whole bunch of like dates. Let's see. Oh, that's like a zip file on when I open one of them.
The
Like,
zip file,
when I-
what title?
When I open that backups, then I get 5 more folders. So if I click on a folder, this one says Lightroom, catalog, RCat, zip.
Okay, that is your backup. If for some reason it's sticking your backup in the folder with the original catalog, which is not a good place for it to be.
Okay.
That's where mine is too.
Me too.
That may be the default, and we'll talk about where you should probably be backing stuff up to.
Okay.
Because here's the deal, is that typically you're going to have your catalog on the hard drive in your computer, okay? If you lose, if you have problems with the hard drive on your computer and you lose the catalog there, if the backup's stored in the same place, you may lose that as well. So what we do here at the studio is we put our backup copies on a separate drive completely, so that if we lose the copy that's on the working computer, we've got a backup copy on an external drive that we can go and get.
So if in my case, I'm backing everything up to an external hard drive, does it matter then if my backup thing is showing in this window?
What you typically want to do is put your backup folder in a different place than where your main catalog is.
But if I'm backing everything up to the D drive, and then from the D drive once a week, I automatically back up to an external hard drive,
That should be good.
okay.
I do that too.
But we're going to go through that, right? Because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we'll talk about backing up, and there are different ways to back up, and we don't use the automatic backup protocol in Lightroom because we have so many catalogs. In a typical week here at the studio, we'll open as many as 30 or 40 catalogs, and because every time we do work for a different client, we're changing catalogs. And so we have a different way that we back up catalogs that makes sense for us. But there is a way where you can get, particularly if you're only using 1 or 2 catalogs, that you can set up the defaults in Lightroom about where it's going to put your backup copy. Okay, so we actually went a little bit longer before taking a break than I wanted to. So let's go ahead. It is 10:21 right now. Let's take a break and be back here at 10:30. So, all right, so let's pick back up where we left off. And there we go. Okay, everybody should be seeing my Lightroom screen again.
Yes.
Anita was complaining that my cursor moves too fast. All right. So what we want to do now is we want to talk about backing up. Okay. So give me a sec. Oh yeah, Lightroom has been acting up funny. Okay. Just need to check something real quick. Yeah, TIFFs won't go away. I don't know whether it's a function of on Zoom or what, but it's been acting up odd. It's just okay. See that. Okay. All right. So back in the catalog settings, there is an item at the bottom of the page about backing up your catalog at the bottom of this dialog. Right. So if you go into the drop down and click, you'll see that you have a bunch of options as to how frequently Lightroom will automatically back up your catalog. And most folks have it set to every time Lightroom exits, which may or may not be a bad thing. It's just that it ties up computer resources while the catalog is copied.
Okay, Marco, I'm lost again. Where are we at?
Okay, so go back into, and Don, I can't remember, you're on a PC?
Yes.
Okay, so you're gonna go into edit and then down to catalog settings.
Okay, we're getting out of where we're at. We're going to edit. Whoops. Catalog settings. Okay, got it.
Yeah, everybody at catalog settings again?
Yes.
We're still in the general tab. And here comes Anita. Okay, so down at the bottom of the general tab, there's an item called backup. And this sets the frequency that the software will automatically back up the catalog. And that applies to this catalog. All right, so obviously you can see you can do it once a month, once a week, once a day, always when exiting Lightroom, every time you exit Lightroom, or when Lightroom next exits, which means you just want to do it this one time. Okay, whatever works for you. Again, I typically would recommend that you if you're doing a lot of editing, that you back up the catalog at least once a week. If you don't do a lot of editing and you only get on there once or twice a month, then backing up once a month might be worthwhile. It all goes back to your pain threshold about how much work you're willing to potentially lose. So we back up catalogs every time we close them. At the end of every day, we typically get into a catalog once a day. And at the end of the day, any catalogs that we had open during that day, we use our system of backing up to make copies of them so we don't lose anything. And the weird thing is we've been using Lightroom for 14 years now since it first came out, and we have never had a catalog get corrupted on us, not once. And like I said, we probably have a couple thousand catalogs on the computer. All right.
So if you're in working on it every day, you should have it for once a day.
I think that's reasonably safe, but some people find that they don't like the time that the computer gets tied up making the backup, which is why they don't do it every day. I'm a nervous Nelly because people, are not understanding if you say, hey, you know that 16-hour photo shoot we went on and we set you on fire and wrecked your car? Yeah, we lost all the pictures from that. We got to do it over. Not real understanding, most folks. So. Okay. All right. So what I want you to do now is in the catalog settings, go to the file handling. And this is going to talk about your previews. And it's going to talk about how long the software holds on to previews of different sizes. So what you can see is you should see under preview cache, standard preview size. And mine's right now set to auto, which is 3,000 pixels. Okay. If you click on the dialog dropdown, you'll see that you have other options for different sizes. Typically, they'll all be smaller than the big preview.
What is yours set at?
Mine's set at auto. So on my computer, it's 3,000 pixels.
What is a preview?
It's what you see before you zoom in Lightroom.
So it's like in your, if you click on something in your film strip,
Yes.
that's your preview?
The preview is what first pops up when you pull a photo up. You know how sometimes when you pull up a photo, it says loading?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when you zoom in, it'll say loading before it zooms in. That's
Yeah.
because the preview, the size of the preview that you've got in there doesn't give you the ability to zoom in closer. Okay.
So my preview is set at 1440 pixels. Is that too small?
Nope. If it works, the thing is that you're more likely to get the hold on while I get you a larger preview message. You'll get that loading message. That's all it says.
So I could put it at auto at 2560 and I'll get a faster response?
Maybe. And that's the thing. This is one of these deals that where to set this depends on how you work, how old your computer is, how fast the processor is, as to what option is best. So one of the things that Lightroom will allow you to do is load what are called one-to-one previews, which is a pixel for pixel preview of the folder of the photo. So if you've got a 6,000 by 4,000 pixel image, that's the size of the preview, which means that when it pulls up, you zoom right in and there's no waiting. The downside is the software has to render those previews. It has to create them. And if you've got a catalog, let's say you went out and you went out for the weekend and you shot a bunch of landscapes and bear butts, which is what I do, and other bad wildlife photos. And let's say you've got 400 photos, and then you download them. You can tell Lightroom to render the previews at one-to-one as an import, but it takes a long time. I mean, depending on your computer, it can take a real long time. And the more you shoot, the bigger the problem becomes. So one school of thought is that you render relatively small previews, and then you only have it make big previews for the ones that you really want to look at. That can actually, for some people, make the whole process speedier. And if you, hold on, this is a good time to back up and say this. In Lightroom, like in Photoshop, there are typically 3 to 6 ways to do any particular task. And people online will argue incessantly about this is the best way to do it. And if you don't do it this way, you're a nitwit and you're a Luddite and you should throw your camera away. Not a big believer in that sort of stuff because my circumstances are not the same as somebody who shoots landscapes, for example. You know, I'll pick on Ed Boudreau, okay? Ed works by himself. He does landscape and wildlife photography. We shoot portraits here mostly. So I have 4 other people that handle photos here at the studio, importing, doing catalog work. Ed doesn't share his work with anybody. He does it all of himself. So the process that works and is efficient for Ed isn't a process that works for us and vice versa because our circumstances are different. Our computer equipment is different, and the way that we store and handle photos is different. Because we have multiple employees, we have a network here in the studio. We have an Ethernet network, so we have to share files between computers, which adds another layer of complexity that most people don't have. Like Ed doesn't deal with that. Ed's storage medium is connected directly to the computer that he's working on, and he doesn't share it with anyone. Okay, so again, the preview quality right below it, high, medium, or low. I leave these at the default for the most part, and we only go in and monkey with these if we're having a problem with the catalog. That's the way we handle it. If the catalog's operating too slowly, we'll come in and make changes. But typically, we leave these at the default settings. So this automatically discard one-to-one previews is that if you create one-to-one previews, they're really big. And they're one of the things that can cause your catalog to get really ginormous. So if you do, in fact, render one-to-one previews, which you do anytime you zoom into a photo, If you have a photo up and you zoom into it, before Lightroom can zoom into that photo, it renders a one-to-one preview, even if you hadn't done one before. Okay, so those one-to-one previews, this function here will delete them from your catalog and go back to a standard preview after 30 days if you haven't used it, which helps maintain, manage the size of your catalog and keep it small.
Hey, Marco?
Yeah.
I have a question. I guess I'm really getting hung up on the whole concept or definition of preview. So if I'm looking at my Lightroom screen in library mode, and I look at the film strip at the bottom and I see 200, I have 200 little mini pictures on my film strip of the day's shoot. Is each one of those a preview?
Yes. Anything, any image you see in Lightroom is a preview.
Okay.
And they're just different sizes.
So if you had your standard preview size set at 3,000 versus, let's say, 1,500, does that affect the amount of storage that you're using on any of your drives?
Yes. It will make
Yes.
the catalog bigger because those previews are mini JPEGs, is a way to think of them. Okay. And as your preview files get larger, they suck up more storage space.
But if your computer is set to automatically discard after 30 days, that storage space then becomes available once again?
Yes.
Is your, if you are backing up everything to an external hard drive, are you backing up your previews too and eating up more space?
Yeah. Your backups typically will be, the idea of a backup is that you can recreate, if your main catalog croaks or gets compromised, you can recreate it with the backup. I will double check that on the size of the backup. Because of the way that we back stuff up, our backup copies are the exact same size as our main copies. Okay, we don't, the technique that we use, we don't have zipped backups. So I'm going to check on that.
So if this is set to automatically discard your previews after 30 days,
Your one
I don't understand. So if I have an old folder in Lightroom that I haven't opened up in a year, and I go in and I click on that folder, it's going to show me everything in the film strip.
It's the one-to-one previews, Anita, that it's getting rid of, not all the previews. So, for example, if you have your computer was set to 1440, right?
Right.
So when Lightroom was creating the previews, when it was importing those photos, all of the preview files that it created were 1440 pixels on the long edge. All right, that's your standard preview size. So when you zoom into a photo, when you're editing it, then the computer has to create a one-to-one preview so you can zoom in. Okay, it's that one-to-one preview that gets deleted, and then it reverts back to the 1440 version.
So why wouldn't you just want to have your one-to-one preview discarded after 2 days or 3 days?
Well, you can see what your options are is 1 day, 1 week, or 30 days, or never. The idea is that the folks who wrote the software thought that, most people don't wrap everything up in one sitting. So they want to give you some time. The thing is that after that one-to-one preview disappears, if you go back in on a particular photo and zoom back in on it again, it'll create a new one-to-one preview for you. And you'll just get that little message that says loading, and it takes a second. And how long that second is depends on how big the photo is and how fast the processor in your computer is.
Okay.
So, Marco, I'm seeing the preview, this group of choices is under a heading of preview cache. So of my total file space, it's telling me I got 5 gig tied up with this.
Yep. Okay.
If I'm really only gonna edit an image once and that's the end of it. Does it make sense for me to reduce this time, this 30 days, and just throw them away after one?
Yeah, and what I would do is I would set it down to 1 week. And then after a week, it will call out any one-to-one previews you haven't used in a week.
Okay.
And
And I assume that we should have the preview quality be high. There's no reason to not, is there?
Yes, the high quality makes them bigger. So our standard previews are medium size,
Okay.
or medium quality rather.
Okay. Cool. Thanks.
My preview cache is 28 gigs.
Okay.
That seems big.
Well, how many photos do you have in your catalog?
A lot.
Well, a lot's not really a number.
My whole catalog,
Yeah, the whole catalog.
I probably have over 60,000, 60 to
It'll
70,000.
tell you exactly how many photos you got in your catalog. So going back, if you're looking at my screen, over here where you see catalog,
Yep.
it'll right underneath the word catalog, it'll say all photographs.
Hang on.
Mine's 89,875.
Okay.
Mine is 0.
For all photographs?
Correct.
You don't have any photographs in the catalog you have open right now.
Apparently not.
Can you see any photos?
Just the one I imported. It was on my desktop and I just imported. It wasn't out of a folder.
So you should have one then.
I
So
know.
what number you got up there?
0.
Anita, you okay?
I have about 72,000.
Okay. So given 72,000 photographs, that size of a cache is not unreasonable.
But if it's being discarded every 30 days, does that still seem high?
Nope.
Okay.
Remember, you have 72,000 little JPEGs in your catalog.
Quick
Okay,
question.
thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, quick question. Since I got in behind last minute enrolling, how many file photos do I need to import?
How many do you have right now?
Oh, right now I don't have any because I don't work on the desktop down here in the basement. Most are in my laptop, but right now I have my external backup hard drive
How many
attached.
photos
So,
do you have imported into Lightroom right now?
oh no, none so
Okay,
far.
that's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll
Okay,
get there shortly.
cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mark, I'm sorry to have been confused. I really have 32,163. I was looking at your catalog, not mine.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, all right. So at least for you three, for Don, Chuck, and Anita, you all have catalogs now that exceed that 15, 20,000 magic window about decreased efficiency. Okay. So you may benefit from breaking these catalogs up into smaller catalogs. There's a problem with that though. And this goes back into, we'll come back to that in a second, about organizing catalogs and files and why you might want to do things the way that you do. Okay. Some people, I know a guy that's got a catalog. He's got 248,000 photos in his catalog, and he's a professional photographer, and he is not inclined to break it up because he likes to be able to search everything he shot from a single catalog. So that's the way he manages stuff. And he says that he doesn't appear to suffer from any decrease in efficiency or speed. Okay. So Adobe loves him, by the way. So. All right, so let me get back up here. Okay, and all right, so in the metadata tab right now, under catalog settings,
Bless you.
bless you.
Thank you.
One of the items that I want to point out is about down near the bottom of this dialog. there's a box that says face detection. And this was a feature that was added a couple versions of Lightroom ago, where Lightroom can face detect. It can go through your catalog and find and tag people based on facial recognition. Okay. Some people find this really super creepy. A lot of people, and even we don't use this feature, and we photograph almost exclusively people here. It's a feature that some people find useful and some don't. But if you decide to use the facial recognition feature in Lightroom for tagging and keywording photos, you're going to want to leave this checked. If you don't think you're going to use it, uncheck it. Alrighty. Up at the top where it says editing, one of the items that I strongly recommend that you have checked is where it says include developed settings in metadata inside of JPEGs, TIFFs, PNGs, and PSDs. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
That is a setting I highly recommend that you check it. If it's unchecked, I recommend that you check it now. By default, it should be checked. You can, when you export files, strip this information out if you don't want to share it. So, for example, if you if you have this information checked, whenever Lightroom creates a file for you, when you export it, it will embed automatically, unless you tell it otherwise, all of that data, all that EXIF data in your files. Some of it you might want. So, for example, you might want, nicely done. You might want your copyright information to be embedded in all your photos, but you don't want people to know where or how you shot a photograph because you're one of those photographers that doesn't share your exposure data. You can elect to strip that information out when you export stuff, and it's really simple to do. It's part of the normal export dialog box. But for the time being, I recommend that you check that because that way you'll always have access to that information. Okay, so we're done with the catalog settings right now. So go ahead and click cancel. Go back over, and this time we're going to click on preferences. All right, so once you open preferences, there's about 10 tabs: general, presets, external editing, file handling, interface, performance, Lightroom sync, display, and network. And we're just going to talk about a couple of these today. Okay, so the settings, to start up here, the splash screen is that cool little dialogue that says you're opening Lightroom version whatever and shows a picture, typically something like a whale, I think is the current one. You can check that so that it'll show that to you, or you can uncheck it and it shouldn't show it to you when you open Lightroom. The next one, everybody here except Don, I think, is on the subscription version of Lightroom, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, so Don, you're still using 6, right?
I'm still using what?
You're using Lightroom 6, or you're
Yes.
using subscription?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So this check for updates will tell you whether every time Lightroom opens, if you have an internet connection, it will go out and check to see, is there an update for this version of Lightroom? I strongly recommend, particularly for those of you on the subscription version, you leave this checked. Because this will alert you that there is an update to download. Okay. So this next one goes back to how you're going to store files. All right. So I'm going to explain the way that I do importing. And there are 2 basic approaches to importing photographs into Lightroom. So this is the way I do it, is that, or let me rephrase that. This is the way that my employees do it for me. I love having people. But this is the technique that I came up with. So what we do is when we go out for a shoot, I come back, we get the memory card, I attach the memory card to a card reader, and I download my files from that shoot into a particular folder. Now, the way that I do it, because it works for me, and here at the studio, I'm the one that matters the most. I love being able to say that. But the way that we do it is we create a folder for each shoot, and the folder has the date. It starts with the date and then has the subject of the shoot, and we put all the photos from that shoot into that folder, okay? There are lots of other ways to do it, okay? This is a way. But the bottom line is we download the photos directly from the memory card into a folder without using Lightroom. You could do it in Finder on a Mac. On a PC, you would do it in Windows Explorer. All right, so we get the photos on the computer in a folder. Then we open Lightroom, we tell Lightroom to import. Okay, and we'll go through that in a minute. Okay, so that's the way that we do it. There's another option where you can download directly from a memory card into Lightroom, and Lightroom will automatically, simultaneously as it imports, will also copy the photos from your memory card onto your computer for you. One of the reasons that we don't do it this way is that I don't like the way the dialog box is laid out, and we've had some catastrophic take 40 minutes to move them around kind of incidents because of the way the import dialog box works. So all that is lead up to this very first box under import options. So on mine, it's unchecked. It's probably checked on yours unless you unchecked it. So what this means is that if this first box, show import dialog, is checked, anytime you insert a memory card into a card reader or attach your camera by a cord to the computer, and the computer recognizes that this thing that just got attached to me has photos on it, it will automatically open the Lightroom import window, which I find incredibly frustrating. So,
Okay, so uncheck that if I don't like that.
if you don't like that feature, uncheck this box. If you like this feature, check the box. And that anytime that you add, attach any device, a USB drive, a camera, a card reader, and the computer says, hey, there's pictures on there, Lightroom goes, pictures? It's like a Labrador Retriever. Pictures, pictures, and it opens up the import dialog box. Okay, so it's up to you.
Okay, I got a quick question.
Go ahead.
I don't have as many tabs, and my tabs are different from, I'm not sure what version I have, but it's
Okay,
definitely
you
not
probably have
subscription.
an older version. Are you on the subscription version, Lorelei?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so you're probably on Lightroom 6 like Don. And so some of these tabs you won't have. Okay?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't have the Lightroom sync, the display, the network, performance.
yeah, those are features that were added in newer versions. So it's not a big
Sure.
deal that you don't have
No
them.
big deal.
No big
Cool.
deal.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Mark, since you're making a folder on your computer that then you transfer into Lightroom, don't you ever take that folder and put it on an external hard drive because you don't want to all that on your computer and then it's moved from a place in Lightroom?
Yes. And in fact, that's something that we do every day here, is to try and make things efficient. We work off of a network, which is slightly different. Most of you aren't working off of an Ethernet network, but we are. So you cannot run Lightroom. The catalog can't be run over a network. It's got to be on the machine that's running it. So we have to constantly move the catalogs around. And every time we move a catalog, it loses contact with the holders. So every time we move a catalog between computer 1 and computer 2, we have to reestablish the connection with the photos. It's not a big deal, particularly if you do it a lot. So yes, when you move those folders, you potentially can lose a connection. It depends how you move them. You can move folders from inside of Lightroom. So you can move a folder from inside of Lightroom from your computer to an external USB drive, and then you won't lose the connection because you've done it from inside Lightroom. And
Okay.
it's I'll show you how to do that in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Anything else there that's yeah, that's the only, those are the only ones there that I wanted to talk about. Let's go to the presets tab.
So you leave the select current previous import collection during import checked?
We do.
And I see you've got checked, treat JPEG files next to RAW files as separate photos. Should we have that checked?
It depends. I would recommend that you do, because that way Lightroom will differentiate between a RAW file and a JPEG that happens to be in that catalog from a RAW file.
Okay,
It'll treat them as two separate photos.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go over to the presets tab. Okay, there's not a lot here. In fact, on this particular screen at this time, there's really nothing that I recommend that you move from the defaults. Okay, so let's hop over to external editing, and this is one where the answers that we get here are gonna vary with everybody. Okay, so external editing means editors that are not Lightroom. So if you have a subscription version of Lightroom, that means you also have a subscription version of Photoshop. Lorelei, you have Photoshop, right? You can just nod.
Oh, wait, what? I think I do.
Okay.
Yes, Lightroom, Catalog, Adobe, Photoshop, Lightroom. Yes.
Okay, so you have Photoshop as well. And Don, you have Photoshop as well? Maybe not?
Maybe not.
Okay, all right. So this window is for how you get access to editors that are not Lightroom. So for example, a typical process that a lot of photographers use is that they'll do a majority or a lot of their work on a photo in Lightroom, and then periodically they want to open it in Photoshop or some other photo editing application to do something. So for example, we do lots of high school seniors, and every high school kid I have ever met has bad skin, period, okay? And so retouching acne is much easier to do in Photoshop than it is in Lightroom. The tool in Lightroom that can do that function is not really well suited to it. So for retouching skin, we always open the photo after we worked on it a bit in Photoshop. And this is where we set up what happens when we open things in other editors. So for example, at the top here, it'll say edit in Photoshop 2000. And the reason it knows that is because the Adobe programs all talk to each other, okay? So Lorelei, right underneath external editing, what's that first text that you see there?
Like right on the upper right,
In the upper left-hand corner.
upper left, file format, color space,
Right above, there should be some small text right above file format.
edit in Photoshop.
Okay, so that's telling me that this version of Lightroom knows that there's a version of Photoshop on there, okay? Don, how about you?
Apparently I have Photoshop.
Okay, so what happens then is that this sets the protocols for what will happen when you open a file from Lightroom into Photoshop. Okay, so one is you can pick the file format. So if you click the drop down, you have two choices. You can work in TIFF or PSD. Okay. If I was Emperor of America and Planet Earth, TIFFs would cease to exist. So my recommendation is, if you're going to take it into Photoshop, work in PSD, because that's the file format that Photoshop likes the best.
Wow, I've been doing it all wrong. All my photos come back from Photoshop and Topaz as TIFF files.
Which makes them bigger than they need to be.
And I see that little explanation though on your screen. It says something about the color space. Is that that it's not as good with PSD as it is with TIFF?
No, that's not true.
Okay, I'm misreading it then.
No, not necessarily. The verbiage that's in here, for some reason, it says that the Adobe RGB color space cannot encompass the full range of colors available within Lightroom. That's true. That's an absolutely true statement. But most of our computer monitors, like I have a real high-end monitor, which can display all of the Adobe RGB color space. But Lightroom can also work in a color space called ProPhoto, which is even bigger. My monitor doesn't show ProPhoto, for it's silly for me to work there. Okay.
Okay, I got a question about that. My
Right.
color space says Pro Photo. I'm not sure about the quality of my monitor. I have two monitors. I am not sure about if it can handle that.
The only way to find out, Lorelei, is to find the model for your monitor and then look it up on the internet to find the
Okay.
tech specs.
All right.
And generally speaking, if the monitor does not say that it does ProPhoto or Adobe, that means it's an sRGB color space monitor. Okay. So,
Okay.
for example, if you click the drop down for color space, everybody, you'll see that there are anywhere from 3 to 5 choices, depending. You'll have ProPhoto, Adobe RGB 1998. You may have Display P3 and sRGB. If you don't know for sure that your monitor does Adobe, and I don't know anybody that sells a reasonably priced for under $10,000 monitor that does the ProPhoto.
Okay, so that would not be mine, obviously. So I'm like, okay, that's not within my price range. So what do you suggest? Just stick with
sRGB. sRGB.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless
So.
you find out later that your monitor will do Adobe, my recommendation is set it to sRGB.
Okay, so check monitor. What do you call that? Capacity or?
It's a spec and it's color space.
Okay.
What you want to do is
color space.
your monitor with the words color space to see if you get a hit. If you You'll either get information or it won't reference it. If it doesn't reference it, it means it's sRGB only.
Okay, got it.
And Mac users too, don't be misled by Mac hype and thinking that your CineDisplay does Adobe RGB, because it doesn't.
So we should all put sRGB most likely.
Most likely.
Okay.
The CineDisplay, for example, is an excellent monitor, and it displays about 108% of the sRGB color space, but it only displays about 84% of the Adobe RGB color space. So if you're a math geeky kind of person, you can play the odds on that, but okay.
So I just got derailed, Marco. I'm really sorry. I had been set to TIFF and ProPhoto RGB. You recommend going to PSD and what for the color space?
sRGB for your monitor, based on our discussion from last night.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
Other settings there should be 16 bits and 240.
I'm about to get to that.
Oh, sorry.
So under bit depth, you've got two choices, 16 and 18. My recommendation is working 16-bit. Does anybody have 32-bit? Just checking.
No.
Okay. My recommendation is set it at 16-bit. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is resolution, and I don't want to get into hardcore math here because it makes people's head hurt early in the morning. But the number,
Friday noon.
the number that you put in there, it tends to be default at 240.
Yes.
My recommendation is
Mhm.
change it to 300.
300.
Yep. And
Okay.
my answer to this is going to be trust me on this one. Just trust me on this.
Trust
If you really
you on
want to know
this one.
why, we can talk offline and I can explain why 300 over 240. It doesn't change anything really, but it causes a lot of confusion. Okay, so the next item down in the window is additional editors. And depending on the software that you have installed, you may have access to more photo editing applications than just Photoshop. So for example, on my computer, if you look here, there are a bunch of other options that I could put in here as a secondary editor, okay? And this is where I would set the protocols for these if I was gonna have them available. I don't access those applications directly through Lightroom, so I don't set this. Okay? Does anybody have an editor besides Photoshop that they use a lot?
I do. I have Topaz, and I have a multiple number of Topaz things, Denoise and Studio 2.
Okay, and
And
all
I'm
of
wondering,
them you can access from inside Lightroom and Photoshop more efficiently.
yes, that's what I do. I access them through Lightroom, and I'm wondering, should I change the file format from TIFF to
Don't worry about it.
PSD?
This is only if you're going to open them directly from Lightroom into those applications.
That's what I do.
Yeah, so if you're going to do that, then you open stuff directly from Lightroom into Topaz.
Yes.
You don't open it from inside Photoshop.
No.
Okay, then this is where you would set those.
So
Okay.
I would need to set that to PSD, just like the one above,
Yep,
and sRGB.
yep. And then 16
Okay.
bits.
Got it. Thank you. This is so helpful. Thank you. I never would have known any of this existed, or, this is amazingly great. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so any questions on the external editing panel? If you
Yes.
don't-
What does stack with original mean?
Okay, so what that means is that Lightroom has the ability to stack photos, which means that it is possible to have 9 or 10, 12, 13, 14 copies or versions of the same photo. And
Yeah.
what it does is this allows you to stack them and it keeps them all together.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we're going to go to file handling.
Did we miss compression?
If your compression only matters if you're working in TIFFs or JPEG. No, just TIFFs. So if on your secondary monitor or editor, and are you using a secondary editor, Don?
No.
Then don't worry about it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions here on the external editing?
On yours said Photoshop 2020 and ours just says Photoshop. Does that mean we're out of date and we have to do an update?
Maybe, but not necessarily.
Okay.
Part of the reason it says that is I have like 14 versions. We have versions of Lightroom or Photoshop going back to version 5.1 or something like that. So we have lots of versions, and what this is telling me is that it's currently linked to the most current version.
Okay.
Once you update, Ginger, when did you download the software?
It's been a long time. I think I got it last year and haven't done much with it.
Okay, the next time you do an update, you may see this change if you come back here. But
Okay.
don't worry if you don't come back here, because these settings will stay the same, but Lightroom will automatically update that you're using Photoshop 2021 and not 2020.
Okay, yeah, because previously my automatic updates was not checked, so I don't know if I've even updated this thing.
And there's a way to go in and manually check for updates. And we'll look at that in a minute.
Okay.
All right. So let's go over to file handling size. Is anybody here creating DNGs?
I am.
I am.
All right. So if you're creating DNGs, then this panel matters. If you're not, then it doesn't. Okay. We don't use DNGs here, so it doesn't matter. So
I don't even know why I'm creating a DNG. Should you be creating a DNG? What is the proper thing to be doing?
raw files. DNGs are a type of raw file. One of the things that you find when you work with raw files is that every camera and every manufacturer has a slightly different format for how their raw files store information. And so Adobe Camera Raw, the reason you need to update that periodically is to keep up with changes and new cameras as they get added. If you buy a new camera, typically you have to update your Camera Raw to be able to read the files from it. The idea of a DNG was something that Adobe floated to come up with a universal standard raw file format. It stands for digital negative. And this would be a raw file that didn't need Adobe Camera Raw to read it and could be read by everybody. The problem is almost none of the camera manufacturers have come on board with this. They're all still doing it the way they've always done it. The DNG's been around for about 10 or 11 years now. The reason some people like DNGs is that they are smaller than the regular raw files typically, right? So a lot of people find that if you have a raw file, let's say you take a picture of a landscape, and then you look at that file in Finder or Windows Explorer, and let's say that photograph is 24 megabytes. If you convert that photo from a raw file into a DNG, typically you'll find that it'll be 20 megabytes. The DNG is more efficient at storing information than the original raw file because it's gotten rid of a bunch of crap. And so what some folks do is after they shoot, they take all their raw files, they convert all their raw files into DNGs, and then they delete the raw files and it saves space on their hard drives. That's a big reason for doing it. DNGs should be more rearwardly compatible than raw files.
So there's no problem with having your stuff, your file extension being a DNG?
No, the thing is, are you actually creating DNGs, really?
I have no idea.
Then you're probably not. Have you seen them in your file structure anywhere?
Um,
When you look at your photos, and when you look at your version of Lightroom and you look down and you click on a photo in the film strip at the bottom, what does it tell you the name of that file is? Just after the dot, that's all you need.
CR2.
Okay, those are real raw files. You're not creating DNGs.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Marco, when I import, it's a 2-pass. It imports and then it goes back and then it creates DNGs.
Okay.
And so when I look in my photo strip at the bottom, mine are DNGs.
All right. So you are creating DNGs and importing them.
Yes,
Are you deleting the raw files?
not that I know of.
You should check, you're on a Mac, right?
Correct.
You go into Finder, go to the folder where one of those photos is and see whether there's DNGs and RAWs or whether the RAWs have been replaced by the DNGs.
Okay.
Because if you're not getting rid of the raw files, it means you've got basically 2 raw copies of the same photo, which will eat up your memory, your storage space pretty quickly. So that's something to check.
Okay.
All
Is
right.
there any downside to having, because I've got CR2s, is it, there any downside to going to DNGs?
No, not that I've ever read. I don't use them just because it's extra work, and we just don't.
Okay.
But I've never read anything that said that there's actually a real downside to a DNG. The big upside is that they're smaller.
And for me, I've been able to share them with people, which is what I wanted to do.
Right. And that was one of the beauties of DNGs, is that it's like a JPEG in a way, in that it's a more universally standard format that doesn't require a raw interpreter to be able to look at. So is anybody here shooting Nikon equipment?
Yes.
Okay, so Ginger, your camera creates files that end .nef. Okay, Canon
Right.
cameras create raw files that end in CR2 for the newer cameras. So without
Mine is CR3.
CR3, okay. Somebody got a new camera, just saying.
Yeah, last year. I know.
Okay, so the CR whatever files and NEF files, if you don't have a program like Lightroom that has an interpreter, which is Adobe Camera Raw, you need one to be able to look at those files. A DNG is more universally readable, okay? And that was what Adobe was pushing when they developed it, but most of the camera manufacturers aren't participating. Everyone's still using NEF, and I forget what Sony's are. I think they're MR something. I don't remember.
They used to be ARW.
Okay. Okay. So that was the only thing I wanted to chat about on file handling.
Before you go away, I've got a couple of other things. I've got embed fast load data is checked.
Okay.
And then down at the bottom, the name generation things.
Okay. And what that does is it talks about characters that you can't use.
Right.
Which characters cannot be used. And then when the file name has a space, you have some options. Leave it as a space, replace it with an underscore, or replace it with a dash.
Right.
Any of you that have used Adobe Acrobat will know that when you create a file, take a file from like Microsoft Word that's normal text and run it through Adobe Acrobat, it replaces all the spaces with underscores. Don't know why, but it.
Okay, so back to this on the very first box, the import DNG creation. The default is embed fast load data is checked.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what I recommend you leave it as.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. All right. So we're going to click over to the interface. All right. So the first thing that you should see on the interface are the panels. And this has to do with how the panels are displayed. So you can get no flourishes or flourishes, which is like a little cool scrolly thing. The font size, this is how big the font needs to be, depends on how good your eyesight is. You can change how big the font is.
Ginormous.
Yeah. That would be the bottom one. Okay. What I want to do is pop down to the background, and you'll have a main window and it says fill color. You can set it here. And what this does is it's going to control the color of the background. I strongly recommend you stay away from white. Okay? The whole idea of these neutral colors in Lightroom as your backgrounds is that when you're working on a photo, you don't want the surrounding screen real estate to affect how you perceive colors. So studies indicate that if you are working on a neutral background, white, gray, or black, that you perceive colors more accurately in your final image. The problem with the white one is it's really bright and it tends to be too much. And the problem with the black one is it's too dark and it's too much. So my recommendation is that you set it to medium gray, which is the default, or one of the grays nearby it. And you can change this here and in another place I'll show you in a minute. Okay.
So mine, by default, the main window was blank. My secondary was medium gray.
Yeah, and that's not uncommon. Mine was that way as well. And it doesn't matter because you can override it once you get into the software, once you get back into the program itself. And I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah.
So the secondary window then should be black or medium gray?
Normally, the reason I leave mine for black is that what I find with the photographs that we show people, that black makes a photograph pop more. And when we're trying to like wow clients and get them to give us millions of dollars for photographs, I want to wow them. And so with the black background, it makes the image more poppy. But you can also change that one as well to the same colors. All right.
Yep.
So we're going to go over the last tab we're going to look at here is performance. Everybody there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So your computer may or may not have a graphics accelerator on it. Okay. But at any rate, my general recommendation is that for the graphics processor, unless you're a supercomputer geeky kind of person, leave it at auto. The other thing that I want to look at is the maximum, the size for the camera raw cache setting. And mine is right now at 5 gigabytes. Is that what everybody else has?
Yes.
Yes.
That should be the default size.
Oh,
I'm not showing any of that stuff on.
I'm not either.
Me neither.
Okay, on this window, Ginger, what are you seeing?
Well, I just closed it on accident. Go to someone else. I'll come back.
Okay, John, what are you seeing?
Mine on develop says use Smart Preview instead of originals for image editing.
Okay, so you're not seeing the camera raw cache settings?
That is correct.
Okay, all right, and that might be a version issue.
Yes.
What do you have up? So you don't have the camera raw graphics processor item either?
I have the use graphic processor.
And then from that it skips right down to the develop?
No, there's another, what is it? GeForce GTX 1050.
Okay, that's the name of the processor that Lightroom
Okay.
is seeing in your computer.
Okay.
And then after that, it jumps down to develop?
It goes down to develop.
Okay. All right.
That's what mine does, except my processor is different. Intel Iris OpenGL engine.
Right, and they're going to be different based on what card is actually physically in your computer. So everyone's going to get something slightly different there. And all of you have auto collect checked, correct, for that first item?
Correct.
Mine doesn't say auto. It just
Mm-mm.
it has checked the use graphics processor. So I'm guessing that's auto. Like it's deciding that's auto, but it doesn't give me like a thing where I can go auto custom or off. It's
Okay.
just it's checked. Use
Yeah, it's just default is graphics processor for me.
Okay, so whether some of these items are visible or not is a function of whether the card that's installed in your computer can take advantage of these particular features. Down the road, if you update your graphics card or update your computer or get a new computer, is for Lightroom and Photoshop in particular, you want to get the beefiest, most powerful graphics card you can get your hands on. Which for most folks, when they say I'm going out to get a new computer, what should I get? I tell them, find some kid with a lot of tattoos and piercings at the computer store.
They know what they're talking about.
Get a powerful gaming computer, because they typically have the stuff inside them that will make the most out of Lightroom and Photoshop.
The laptops do that. Like my husband bought a new laptop for me and my kids, and he said they're gaming laptops. So is that what it is?
Yeah, a lot of gaming computers are laptops, and they normally have like cool lights on them and stuff, and they have edges. It looks like it could be a weapon if you needed it to. None of which affects how it works, but it just looks cool because they're aiming at that 18 to 30-year-old male demographic. Yeah. And those guys are easily swayed by stupid things. Just trust me.
I beg your pardon.
I'm making a note for myself here to just double check something.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So that's everything that we want to look at. Oh, where I was at, if you're have it available where you have the area that says camera raw cache, the 5 GB setting is a good setting. So just leave it at that.
Marco?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I know somebody who purges his cache on a regular basis to keep his computer speedy, or at least that's what he says happens. Is that true?
Yes.
Should we be doing that then as a sort of just a good practice cleanup?
Not yet, Anita. It's something that you should do because it helps speed things up. Because the cache holds on to a bunch of crap it doesn't need, and anything that the computer remembers, that's memory that you're giving up someplace. And periodically, it's not a bad idea to optimize a catalog and purge the cache. But I don't want to get into that today.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, mine next is under develop. It just says use smart previews instead of originals for image editing. Should I check that box?
No.
Okay.
All righty. So we're going to close out of the preference tab. And that was really super tedious stuff, but it's important to understand how things go. Oh, you know what? There's one that I missed. Hold on a minute. Where the heck was it? How did I not see it? Please go back into the Preferences tab and then go to the External Editing tab. I knew there was something I missed. Okay, is everybody there?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so down at the very bottom of the External Editing tab, there is an item that says Edit Externally File Naming. So
Yeah.
here's what happens. When you get to that point where you are using Photoshop or any other external editing program, when you're working on a raw file and you say, I need to edit this raw file in Photoshop, what it's going to do is you're going to tell Lightroom, I want to edit this in Photoshop, and Lightroom is going to create a new copy. So based on my settings going into Lightroom, it's going to create a PSD copy of my raw file. The raw file is left untouched. Lightroom looks at it and says, he made these changes to it, so I'm going to open a PSD version of this file in Lightroom, and it's going to add it to the catalog. So what this window does is controls how that new file is named. And the default is it's going to use the original file name with the word edit at the end of it. Okay? So if you don't like how how Lightroom is naming your Photoshop files when you create them, this is where you come to change the default, all right? So some people like having the word edit because it tells them this is a copy. For me, knowing that the extension PSD is enough for us to know that it's an edit. It's not the original version. So we changed ours from the custom that it started with to just file names. So in our version of Lightroom, when we create a new file, the file has the exact same name as the raw file. It just has a different file extension, .psd instead of .cr2. Because we don't have the new camera that Lorelei has.
Question?
Yeah.
I have a question. Sometimes when I go into, when I'm in Lightroom and I'm bopping around, taking a photo and I'm going into this topaz feature and I'm doing a little adjustment on the sharpness of the eyes, and then I pull out and I do an adjustment on the noise, and then I pull out and I'll go into Photoshop and I'll do my final adjustment on brightness, and I come back to Lightroom. I'll have like 4 different edits from an external plugin, and I get confused sometimes. If I come back a day later, I'll say, dagnab, which one is the most recent one I did?
Okay.
If I wanted that as a, now that we're in this box, if I changed it to date-file name, would that help me with that? Would that tell me the most recent?
Are you creating these multiple PSD copies on purpose, or is it just doing it, or do you not want it to do it that way?
Well, I'm not replacing, when it gives me the option, when I leave the external editor and I come back into Lightroom, it says, you want to replace the file or do you want to do a new one? I'm always doing a new one because I'm never sure which one I really, really, really am going to like at the end. So I end up with sometimes 4 or 5 different images or copies. And usually right then and right there, I use a color coding. I select the one that is the best and I get rid of the others. But if I don't, and I come back a day later.
Hold on to this question until next week.
All right.
Because when we start talking about opening files to edit them, that would be a better time to have this discussion.
Okay, thanks, sorry.
Okay. All right, but at any rate, if you want to control the default system that Lightroom uses to name new files, this is where you come to change it. A lot of people leave it on the default that comes from the factory. We just came in and changed it to file name. Okay. All righty. Questions on that? Okay, so go ahead and close out that dialog box and we should be back in the main screen. Okay, so I want to give another portion of the quick tour here. I want to just talk about a couple things. Let's see if I can do this correctly the first time. Okay, so when you're in Lightroom and you're in a module, any module, until you modify it, when you first open the module, they're all laid out the same way. So the first thing that you'll have is you'll have this area on the left side. It's a panel, okay? You'll also have another panel on the right side. Down at the bottom of the screen, down in this area, once you import photos, this is where your film strip is. And all the photos that you currently have viewable will appear down here. And you can change the size of this. You can grab it right about, okay, I'm still in that, I keep forgetting. All right. You can come down here and grab this and change the size of your film strip. You can pull it up and down. Likewise, with your panels, you can grab the edge of the panel and you have the ability to, come on, pull the panel in and out. You also have the ability, by using these little carrots or arrows here on the side, is to temporarily close a panel to expand your screen space. All right. If you have the panels closed, if you move your cursor right to the edge of the screen, they'll temporarily pop back open. I find this really annoying. I don't like to do this, so I either have them open or closed. I kind of don't use this, but a couple of the girls that work here do this a lot, and sometimes I get dizzy watching them work. I said, I'm going to throw up. I have to go in the other room. I think they do it on purpose. Actually, that's not true. They're nice kids. All right. So you can also, at the top, there is a caret up here as well, so you can hide the top menu. Again, this is all designed to expand your screen space, particularly if you're working on a smaller screen like a laptop. If you've got one of these giant Apple Cine displays that's 85 inches long, it's probably not as important. Okay, so down in your main window in the library, right under the big gray area where mine says no photos selected, do you all see a toolbar that looks like the one that I have displayed or not?
Yes, I have,
Okay, check
but I
that.
don't have quite the same thing as you do.
Okay. Anita, do you have it?
I have similar, but I don't have the little colored flags.
Yeah, that's me too.
Okay,
I'm there, no color flags too.
all righty.
I don't have colored flags.
Okay.
What
I have
colored
stars.
flags?
Or
This stuff right here is what you're missing?
Oh, I don't have that.
What I have there is I have stars.
Okay,
I have stars too.
all right.
Colored flags, stars. I don't have neither of those.
Okay, so Lorelei, what I want you to do is push the T key.
Where is the tiki?
Hit the letter T. You see him now?
No.
I don't see any of that either.
Don't either. I got a spray can and A and Z and sort and capture time.
It looks like that.
Yeah, mine looks like that.
What I want you to do is, you see these icons across the bottom? There's
Yeah.
one with the grid view and then one with the single block. Click
Mm-hmm.
the single block.
Okay. All right.
I don't have the single block.
Single block.
I
not
still don't.
familiar.
Oh, you mean single frame? I still don't see it.
All right.
I have stars that are. Yeah. I don't see the like
Are-
a
are-
rainbow
Do
color.
you see this toolbar at all, Lorelei? Do you see this?
Yes, but I don't have the color blocks. But I have stars.
Okay.
You know
One
what?
that's
Mine are
single
up top. Mine are up at the top. I got the flags and then the rating, the stars, and then the colors
Okay.
out at the bottom.
That toolbar at the bottom, Don, what does it look like?
It's just got, I got the spray can, and then I got Z over A, and then like turn right or left, sort, and capture time.
Okay. So what I want you to do is push the key E.
E?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. How about now?
I don't see any changes. No.
What did we click? I'm sorry, I missed that. There was a lag in audio.
E. Don, do me a favor. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let me pull up your screen so I can see what you're seeing.
Okay. Woo, I don't want to do that.
And Tina, you're not seeing it either, right?
No.
Okay. Ginger, how about you?
I see most of that, but instead of your color boxes, I have stars that aren't colored. They're just stars.
Oh, I'm in library. Should we be in develop?
No, library.
Okay.
Did that come through?
Okay. Yep, I got it.
Okay.
All right. So, la, la, la. All right. So, Don, one of the things is that you've got the library active, the library tools active at the top. Okay.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
hit the slash key, they should go away.
Hit the what key?
The slash key, the
Backslash?
key. Did it hide it?
No.
And the backslash key is the one that's typically up by the brackets, by the backspace, not the one that's with the question mark.
Okay. Under backspace.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything happen.
That toolbar at the top is still visible?
Yes.
That's weird. Okay, so let's go, Don, go ahead and drop out.
Okay.
And Tina, if you could show me your screen real quick. Okay. Tina, go ahead and hit the T key for me, please.
Nothing happened.
All right. There it goes.
Okay. I
All
had
right.
to click onto it, sorry. Yeah.
All right. So this is pretty much what most of you are seeing with the stars and not the colors, right?
Mhm.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So Don, you're still, we're not getting that for you yet, right?
Not down at the bottom, no.
Okay. All right, so let's see if I can do this. All right, so on Tina's, well, that was a dismal failure. Let's try it again. So on Tina's screen here, these symbols here are what I was just talking about. This is the grid view. This is the loop view. Okay, these are the two that we're going to be mostly concerned about. You should be in the group or the loop view as opposed to the grid view. And there's a couple different ways to toggle between them. All right. All right, so Tina, go ahead and drop out, please. And we're going to take another break here in just a second.
How do I do that? Where?
To stop sharing. It'll be up near the top.
Oh, shoot.
Way up at the top of the screen.
How do I get back into Zoom? All I'm seeing is my Lightroom screen.
Push your cursor right up to the edge of the top of the screen. Go ahead and minimize your Lightroom for a sec.
Oh, there we are. Says resume share?
Just
No?
stop sharing.
Stop share. I see, sorry. Okay.
Okay. All right, so let's do this. It's about 5 minutes to noon. Let's take another 10-minute break and then we'll reconvene for the last hour, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so before we get into the last hour today, there's a couple things that I want to make sure that everybody understands is that Lightroom, like its counterpart Photoshop, is an incredibly complex program that has lots and lots and lots of features. And there's no way in 16 hours of classroom instruction that we can cover everything. What we are going to cover are the things that you're most frequently going to use. If you have a particular question that seems to be unique to you, I am always happy to do to stay after school or to have a separate Zoom meeting so we can share screens and we can talk through your particular problem. Like I said at the beginning, a big part of my goal here is to make sure that you fundamentally understand how the program works, because a lot of the advanced tools, if you kind of generally understand what's going on, aren't that big a deal to actually use. And the good news is, Lightroom has so many users that if you're working at 2 o'clock in the morning and you get stuck on something, you frequently can Google the problem and come up with 3 or 4 tutorials that will walk you through how to do it. And that's always a big help. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this is a decision for the group, with getting everybody logged in and everything, we got started about 20 minutes late today. I am happy to run over. I don't know what your personal schedules are or your pain threshold for that matter, whether you want to go the extra 20 minutes or cut it off right around 1 o'clock. So just the floor is open for discussion.
Extra 20.
Extra 20.
20.
Extra 20. Where do I need to go?
We'll see. My husband's going to call me and have me meet him to pick out windows. And I told him I was done at 1. So we'll see. If he messages me, I might have to. But I'm recording you. So.
All right. Okay. And Ginger, you were muted.
Extra 20, I'm sorry, I was muted.
Okay. I saw you nodding your head, but you might have been talking to somebody off screen. All right. So I'm going to go back and share my screen again. So where we were was, why I wanted to find out where everybody was down here, you all are seeing stars and not colors. Okay. And this is why. If we come over to this little drop down caret here and click it, it opens up a bunch of tools to change what we see over there. So I just added stars. I can add sorting, but that I don't like that, so I'm going to take that one back off. We don't use the sorting, but we do use flags, we do use stars, and we do use colors. All right. We can add or subtract navigation, slideshow, which is a real dumb one to have here, I think. So all of you can go in as well and change this. And what I would like you to all do is make sure that you've got flagging, rating, and color labels checked at a minimum. And if you've got problems doing that, let me know.
Could you give us a
Ready.
30-second explanation of draw face region?
That is for if you're going to be using facial recognition to tag photos.
Okay.
And it doesn't do bears. I'm just going to tell you that up front.
Oh,
Okay.
now I see the colors in the boxes when I clicked color label. That's what was missing. It was unchecked.
And the default from the factory has the colors hidden and the stars shown.
I can't figure out how to make you small enough to get mine up there. What do we do? What do we do?
Chuck, you good?
Yes.
Tina? Okay.
Yep,
Any-
I'm good.
Nita, you make that happen?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm
And
not.
I just turned on show grid and I like it.
all right. And how you guys use this to navigate stuff is a big personal preference deal. Hold on a second. Ginger, were you good on that? Okay, got it. All
I'm
right.
not. I can't shrink you down enough to get mine to come up. What am I doing wrong?
You should be able to go down to the toolbar at the bottom
Yeah?
and click on your Lightroom thing, and it should override my screen.
I can't get to it. I can get the chat and share screen, but I can't see any of mine. How do I shrink you down? Get out of my way.
You should be able to, in the upper right-hand corner, resize the zoom window.
There it went. Oh. Okay.
Okay, so the reason I wanted to show you that is that a lot of items can be changed this way based on the tools that you wind up using and the tools that you don't. So on this particular screen, we use the flags, the stars, and the colors. Most of the other stuff we don't find helpful, so I have it shut off typically to save screen space and make the screen less cluttered. Doesn't change how the program performs at all. Okay, so just in case, I want to make sure that when we're talking about these panels, there are dialogues inside the panels that we can expand or hide by clicking the triangle, okay? Every window is laid out this way. You can expand and contract these control panels to make the screen as cluttered or as uncluttered as you want. All right, so for example, on the library panel, we come over here to the catalog. If that one's expanded, the first item we should see under the catalog is all photographs. And that number on your screen is a tally of all the photographs that are currently in the active catalog, the catalog that you have open. So this catalog doesn't have any photos in it yet, so it's at 0. A couple of you said that you had like 72,000 or whatever.
Yes.
And that's just a count. The synced photographs and the quick collection photographs we're going to skip for right now, but we're going to talk about previous import. I think it's misnomered or misnamed. Previous import is a list of the files from the last time you imported anything. And Lightroom treats that bunch of photos as a separate group for a couple reasons. A lot of times if we're adding photos to an existing catalog, we want to do something to this new bunch of photos, and this is how we can get at it, okay? So, for example, Chuck, on your computer, the number of photos next to previous import, what's the total there?
1.
Okay, so the last time you imported something, it was a single photo. Anita, how about?
I have 40.
Okay. Don, how about on yours?
17.
Okay, Lorelei?
0.
Okay, Tina?
28.
Okay, and Ginger?
279.
There's a
Woohoo!
winner.
You're the winner! Ding, ding, ding.
And the folks that work for me would say that you guys are all amateurs because we frequently have previous imports that are more than 1,000. And that's
Wow.
one day of shooting that they hate. Okay. All right. So the thing is that there are lots and lots and lots and lots of ways to sort and look at smaller groups of things in your catalog. Because looking at all 24,000 photos in a catalog is frequently not efficient. And the previous import is a group that we use typically a lot. So if you come down here and click on previous import, what's going to happen, it's going to show you, in Chuck's case, it's going to be 1 photo. In Ginger's case, it's going to be 200 and something. Okay. And it treats those as a special group that you can look at individually. Okay. All right. So for right now, what I want you to do though is if you've got a catalog with photos, just go back and click on all photos and it shows you everything that's in the catalog right now. Okay. So the next button down from catalog is folders. And because this catalog that I created doesn't have any photos, that folder that exists is there because I had some photos in and then I removed them, but Lightroom holds on to that until you tell it to get rid of it, okay? So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna tell it to remove that, all right? So right now in this catalog, there are no folders. Now, based on how much you've been using your computer, you may have 1 or 100 folders that are here. And the folder structure will look identical to the folder structure that you'll see either in Finder or in Windows Explorer. And this window here, the folders window, is one of the ways where we can move things without having to get out of Lightroom. So we can import something in one folder and then move it to another here in this tab. And we'll come back to that in a bit. All right. So over on the other side, and the other panel, there are a bunch of other drop downs. There's Quick Develop, which I think is stupid and we don't ever use it. So we're going to skip it, because if you want to develop, go to the Develop tab. This is one of those things that we've never used. Okay, so going down from Develop, you've got keywording. We've got a keyword list. We've got metadata, which is where we go to look at all sorts of information about our photos when we actually have them, and then comments. Okay, so we can add comments to photos. This is a feature that we found not very useful, and I'm going to be upfront. Keywording is something that we used to do here aggressively, and about 6 years ago, we stopped keywording. We don't keyword photos anymore here. Because
Why?
for us, it was a waste of time. We spent a lot of time doing the keywords and copying and syncing keywords, and we never actually used keywords to search for anything. And the whole purpose of keywording photographs is so that you can search and find them quicker. And for us, it wasn't working out that way, so we stopped doing it. Particularly folks with big catalogs, keywording can be a crucial way that you manage and find photos, okay? So we are going to talk about it. It's just something that we don't do, because for us and the way that we work, it's not helpful, okay? And that's a big important thing about Lightroom, is that if a feature's not useful and helpful, don't use it. It's not going to affect anything. All right. So before we look at any more of the tools, we need to get some photos in. So everybody has photos in their catalog except for Lorelei, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you guys can just follow along with I'm going to show you the two different ways that we can import photos into Lightroom. So the simplest way is on the library screen down here in the lower left-hand corner is the import button, and you click it. And when you click it, and my computer's sluggish today, the import dialog window opens up, and it also has a left panel, a right panel, and a central window. Okay, so when we start, the panel on the left is where the photos are coming from. So for example, if I had my camera plugged into the computer, or I had a card reader plugged into the computer with a card in it, it would show up over here as well. What I have, because I don't have either of those, is I have access to my file structure. And if I expand this caret, you can see all of the folders that are currently on that C drive that could potentially have pictures in them, okay? So this is where I'm gonna pick where the photos are coming from, all right? So I'm gonna come down here to where they're coming from, and I'm gonna come to Lightroom Workshop, and down here I've got a folder called Class Photos Folder 1, and I'm gonna click it, okay? So once I click a folder, all of the photos that are in that folder pop up. Now, if you have, and as for particularly those of you that have been using Lightroom for a while, you may get a lot of other photos that aren't in the folder. And that's because up here, now that I've got a from place selected, this is active. There's an up and down arrow here. Can you all see it?
See yours.
If I click that up and down arrow, it says, it gives me a bunch of information, blah, 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 blah. And down at the bottom, it says include subfolders. So if you have a folder that has subfolders that have photos that you want to import, you would click this, and Lightroom will look in that folder and any subfolders to find pictures. If you don't want it to look in subfolders, like I don't, you would uncheck it, which I did. Okay? All right, So I've now picked where the photos are going to come from. Now, up here at the top of the window, I can do copy as DNG, which is probably what Chuck, what you're doing when you import them, right?
Yep.
Okay. I can copy them, which means instead of importing these ones, I can copy them from some place to another place. And that would typically be the choice that you would pick if you were copying photos directly from a camera or a memory card that was plugged into the computer. Okay. I can move them, or in this particular case, I'm just going to add them, and it's going to say add photos to catalog without moving them. So it's just going to add them to the catalog where they currently are. And because I intentionally put these photos in that spot using Windows Explorer or Finder, this is where I want them. So I'm going to say just add them where they are. Don't move them anywhere. Okay. And it tells me that there's 8 photos. And everything that is not currently in my catalog is already checked. It's checked that says, oh, you want to add all these things. Okay, so I've now picked where they're coming from and how I want to include them into Lightroom. And I'm picking add, okay? So over here in file handling, there is an item that says build previews. And if you click the drop down, you have a couple choices. You can have minimal, embed in sidecar, standard, and one-to-one. Our default here for our studio is minimal. And the reason why that we do it that way is if you pick one-to-one, which is another valid technique depending on how you work, when Lightroom imports these things into the catalog, it immediately begins to build one-to-one previews. So in Ginger's case, let's say she was out shooting RAW and she's got these 213 photos that she imported. The program will immediately start building one-to-one previews for all 200 photographs, and it can be a time-consuming process that you may not want to stick around for, okay? We don't. So we use minimal previews. That gives the fastest upload, and then it's ready, because for the way that we work, the thing that we need to do next, we don't need one-to-one previews for. And in fact, we don't want one-to-one previews. Later on, we'll build one-to-one previews when we need them, okay? All right, so we're gonna leave that set to minimal. You can, down here, you can elect to have smart previews. And this item, don't import suspected duplicates, is something that I typically recommend that you check. Because if there's a file that Lightroom thinks is already in the catalog, you don't want it to re-import it, because that can cause all kinds of confusion later on about where that photo really is when you try to export it. All right. The next item down is you have an item. Well, because I'm not making an initial copy, I can't get access to it. But if you're copying stuff and not adding it like I am, you can opt to make a second copy someplace else. The next button down is add to a collection. So I may be adding these to an existing collection, but because we haven't gotten there yet, we're not going to do that. So we're going to leave that unchecked. Okay. So down here under apply during import, you have the ability to apply presets that you've created in Lightroom automatically to photos. You can also apply metadata presets, but for right now, we're going to leave those at none because we haven't talked about them yet. Okay, we're going to talk about those on Thursday. All right, so if I came down here and hit the import button, it would now add all of these photos directly to the catalog, which is what it's going to do in a minute. But I'm going to hop back up here before I do that. If I click copy, what happens then is some of the items up here now become available. So for example, file renaming is an option, and I can come in here and rename files as I import them, okay? We typically don't do this. We manually import the rename the files once we've got them imported. we find we make less mistakes when we do it this way. But you can rename the files on import. So let's say the 204, I'm going to pick on Ginger just because she has the most photos. Let's say the 214 photos that she's got, she went to the Clown Car convention over the weekend, and she wants to rename all these photos Clown Car Convention 2020. She could do that here so that when they appear in Lightroom, the files have all been renamed Clown Car Convention 2020.cr2.
Huh.
Just the raw files. Okay, Anita, was that a question or?
No, I just, that's interesting.
All right, you can do it here. We don't. We do it as a separate step, just because when we've done it this way, we collectively, me and the folks that work here, are prone to make mistakes when we do it that way. So we stop. All right.
I didn't even know you could rename the file in Lightroom.
Okay, well, you can. All right.
I'm so excited.
All righty. So if we want to copy, we would click here, and then it says, where do you want to do it? And we could choose the folder that we wanted to send it to. Okay. All righty. So if I pick move, what happens is that we get the destination down here. And this is where, if you're importing directly from your camera or a memory card using the import window, this is where you would tell Lightroom, this is where I want you to put the photos. And I use my computer all the time, and I frequently make mistakes when I do it this way, which is why we import the way that we do, where we create a folder, we copy the photos directly from the camera into that folder, then import them using the add feature up here, as opposed to the move from the memory card or copy from the memory card and give it a destination. But this works exactly the same way as your Finder or Windows Explorer works, is that you navigate to where you want the photos to go, and any external devices that you have attached to your computer will show up here when you do this. Okay. All right. So we're just going to go back. We're going to add them where they are. We're not going to import suspected duplicates. I'm going to leave the previews as minimal, and I'm not going to add any, I'm not going to apply any developed settings or metadata settings, and I'm going to tell it to import. So it'll take a second. It'll come back to the main screen. We'll get a progress bar up here. And because there's only 8 files, it only takes a second. So now I have pictures too. So Lorelei, go ahead and import some photos so that you've got some in as well.
Cool. I was going to ask the same thing. Like, I should probably start importing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just wherever you import them from, only import about 10 or 15 right now. So it goes.
Sure. Yep. Trying to see which one is. I'm trying to put them on my desktop so this is faster, because I don't have anything on this computer desktop, and everything is on the backup hard drive. It might take me a little bit. Let me pick something.
All right. So while we're waiting for Lorelei's photos to import, so what happens now is that once the photos are imported, you'll see them down here in the film strip. A couple things have happened. If I come back to catalog now, it'll tell me that there are 8 photos in the catalog, and on the previous import, which is the last one, that there were 8. Right now, I'm looking at the photos in the grid view, which you can get to by hitting the G key or clicking the grid symbol down in the toolbar at the bottom. How are we doing there, Lorelei? almost.
I'm coming. Okay, I have at least two. That'll,
Okay, that's
that'll
all
be
we
good
need.
enough. Okay.
That's fine. So
Cool.
everyone's got
All right.
pictures. All right. So couple things now about navigating this space. I'm going to make the toolbar a little bit bigger. So you can see right now that this photo down here is highlighted. Okay. I can, using the control key or the command key on a Mac and click, I can select other photos to also have them selected. Right. So I have 3 photos selected. You'll notice that one of the photos that's selected has a brighter border than the other 2. Everybody see that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what that means is all 3 of these photos are selected, but the first photo, the one with the brighter border, has the focus. And that becomes really important when we synchronize things, is which photo has the focus. All right. So I'm going to unselect the other 2, and there's a couple ways to unselect photos. Controller Command D will unselect anything that's picked. All right, so if I do a Control D, it unselected all of them. If I go back here and have 3 selected, if I come back to a particular photo and click on the border of it, it will unselect everything else and select just that one. Right? So that's 2 ways to go from having a bunch of things picked to just one picked. So let's say I wanted to pick everything from this photo to the photo with the boat. So I could push the Command or Control key down and click on each photo one at a time and add them. Or I could go to the last, I could pick one photo, go to the last photo I want to include in the selection, push the Shift key and click, and it'll pick everything from the one that was originally selected to where I am now. Everybody try doing that with some photos to see that you can do that, or if you've got challenges.
Your audio went out when you said what you did to do all photos. You hit what buttons?
Okay, so I would go to select the first one, and
Okay,
then find the last one in the group I wanted, push the Shift key down and click on the last one, and it will pick everything between the first one and the last one.
got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I can clear that selection by clicking on the border of one photograph, or pushing Control or Command D will clear the selection. That's 2 different ways to get out of having a bunch of stuff selected. All right, so what I want to do though, and it's the reason I spent so much time on the other screen, is I want you to select the loop view. So if you, it's the view with the big box, the single image right here. And what it will do is it will pick up the currently selected photo. If there's multiple photos selected, it's going to show you the one that has the focus. All right, so everybody, you should be able to pull up a single image. Everybody there?
Yes.
No.
So if you don't see that big box, just push the E key on your keyboard.
Okay.
Tina, you good? Tina, you have an image up? Okay, good. All right. Anybody not there?
I'm not there. Hang on, trying to, because I have 2 monitors. Trying to look into.
I don't have that box.
All right, just hit the E key.
E key. Okay.
And you should have a single image in the main viewing area now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure we need to monkey with your thing and figure. I know you've got an older version, but you should still.
Yeah.
See.
I could have sworn I'd seen it here before, but I don't know where it's at now. Hopefully I didn't get rid of it or something.
But that toolbar is there, right? At the bottom?
Yeah, it's got a spray can, and then it's got A over Z, and then the arrows for turning it. And
Okay.
then sort by capture time, but at the top, it's got the stars, flags, colors, and then kind, whatever kind is.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay.
There is some setting in your Lightroom that's causing this.
Okay, we can do it later or something if you
You
want.
should be seeing, even in Lightroom 6, you should be seeing this at the bottom.
No,
Or we'll
I got the
figure it
colors
out.
and the stars are at the top.
Yeah,
We'll
after
work on that. Okay.
around afterwards, we'll fix that.
Okay.
Okay, so
Loop view. We're in loop view, right?
loop view, that's correct.
Okay. All right.
All right. So in the loop view, one of the things that we can now start to do is we can start making metadata changes to this photograph. Okay. One of the simplest ways that we can start to sort and file photos is we can give them flag ratings, star ratings, or color ratings. Now, Don, since you don't have the toolbar at the bottom, you're going to have to use the keyboard shortcuts.
Okay.
Now, if you ever wonder what the keyboard shortcut is for anything, I'm going to hover over the flag. Okay. In parentheses behind flag is the letter P in parentheses. Okay. So I can flag a photo using this toolbar. So I could click here and it will flag this photo. And in fact, once I clicked here, you can see that I got a little flag symbol in the upper left-hand corner of the thumbnail down here. If you don't see that, or if you don't, in Don's case, just hit the P key and it will flag the photo.
Oh, okay.
All right. So most of these sorting things are toggles. When you click it once, it turns it on. When you click it a second time, it turns it off, except for flags. There are 3 flag statuses. You can have picked, unpicked, or delete. Okay, so I have this one picked. So I'm going to go down to photo number 7 in my thumbnail here, and I'm going to what was I thinking? Why is this in here? This is stupid. Okay, this is a photo I don't want to keep. So I'm going to mark this one for deletion by flagging it for delete, which is either I can click here, set as rejected, or as is indicated by the symbol inside the parentheses, I can just hit the X key and it will give me a black flag in the upper left-hand corner and kind of gray out the picture.
Okay. Got that.
So that's
Ooh.
telling me that this is a photo that at some point I'm going to delete from the computer because I don't want it. It's not deleted yet. It's just marked for deletion. Okay.
When will it get deleted?
When I delete it. You have to physically actually delete it yourself to delete it. Now, there is a setting in Lightroom where you can tell Lightroom to automatically delete any marked for deletion folders when you close the program. Okay,
Cool.
and that's a preference setting, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So let's say I decide that, well, you know, maybe there's a lesson to be learned from this photo and I don't want to delete it after all. So if I hit the X key again, it just still stays as rejected. The way that I unpick or unflag a photo is to hit the U key for unpick or remove flag. And in that particular case, I hit U and the black flag goes away.
Where's the U? What?
It's just on the keyboard.
Oh, okay.
It's a keyboard shortcut.
Oh.
Hey, Marco?
Just U or highlight and then just hit U?
Just you. Just make sure the photo that you want to unpick is currently flagged either as a pick or a delete, and make sure it's got the focus, and then hit the U key.
Oh, I see it. Thanks.
Anita, you had a question?
Yes, in selecting, so we're in library mode.
Right.
And if I were to go using library mode and I would rate my photos with stars, I'm seeing photos that are showing as unfocused. But if I go to develop, boy, I can see the eyes real sharp on the birds. So
Yeah.
my
That is a frequent thing that happens, is that and I don't know the technical reason for it, but sometimes when you're in the library mode, changes that you've made in the develop mode will show up, but they won't show up initially in the develop mode till you close the program and reopen it. Sometimes the exact opposite happens, and sometimes images look sharper in one module than another. I don't know why that happens, but it happens all the time.
Marco,
So-
I see on yours that it says recording is paused.
Let me go back here real quick. Give me a sec. It tells me I'm recording still.
Oh, okay.
All right. Okay.
So I'm just wondering if it's dangerous to be in the library mode for me and doing my selections with my flags and my stars. I'm always doing them traditionally in the develop mode. Do you recommend, is there a problem doing it in the develop mode versus doing it in the library mode?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So flagging is one way that we can mark photos. The second way that we can mark a photo is we can give it a star rating. And there are several ways to do it. One is you can select the photo, and if you have the star tools down here, you can pick the number of stars that you want to give it. And they'll show up down here in the lower left corner of your thumbnail. And you can pick from 0 to 5 stars. So we can use this tool to do it, or we can use a keyboard shortcut. And the keyboard shortcuts are 0 for 0 stars, 1 for 1 star, 2 for 2 stars. You see where I'm going here?
Mhm.
All the way
Get
up to
the
5
fifth star,
stars.
it's fine.
Okay. So you can change the star ratings by typing in 0 to 5. So you get either 0 stars or 5 stars. Okay. So this photo of the boat, I really, really like this a lot. So it's one that I'm going to keep. So because we don't give things 5 stars right away, I just give it 1 star to tell me that I like it. Okay, for right now. And I
I'm
don't
so
know.
generous. I gave it. I'm sorry. I gave the photo. I like 5 stars.
All right. The reason that we do it this way is that this is the way that we filter photographs. So I am not joking. It is not uncommon for me to come back from a photo shoot with nearly 1,000 photos to go through. And so the way that we go through the photos is the first time we go through them. Well, let me finish and then I'll come back to this. All right. So we can give photos anywhere from 1 to 5 stars or 0 to 5 stars. The other thing that we can do is give them color ratings, which are right here. And the colors are red, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So if we have this toolbar up, all we have to do to give this photo a color is click on it. So I can give it green or blue or purple. Or if I just click on purple again, in that case, it takes it off, okay? The other way that you can add colors is with keyboard shortcuts, and the colors pick up where the numbers leave off. 6 is red, 7 is yellow, 8 is green, and 9 is blue. And now we're out of numbers. So purple, you either add it here, or you have to go into the third way that we can add colors, which is to right-click on a photo thumbnail, and then this dialog pops up. And what we can do here is select set color label, and purple shows up here. There is not a keyboard shortcut for purple. Okay, so For red, yellow, green, and blue, we can use this toolbar or 6, 7, 8, or 9. For purple, we can use this tool, or we have to go into the dialog box to add a color label.
So purple is like the highest rating.
Nope, it's what you want it to be. And that's the thing about these is that if you go online, there's tons of photographers and
Mhm.
Adobe that will tell you how you're supposed to use these.
Mm.
I don't agree. We don't use them like that. These are tools that allow you to select things and you can use them any way that you want. So you can add a flag rating and a color and a star rating to a single photo. So I'm going to come back to this photo of the birds that Becky took, okay, because I can't take wildlife photos, okay? So let's say that based on something that we're doing, we want to mark this one as yellow because it's the way that we're going to group it, and we're going to give it 3 stars. So this photo right now has a yellow border around it. It's got 3 stars and it's flagged. So I'm going to come back here to the purple one and unpurple it. Okay. So once we click off of it, it might be a little bit easier to see the color. So that photo, which is number 4 in my film strip down here, has a flag rating. It's marked as yellow and has 3 stars.
So are you to assume that like you could go in somewhere and say, I want all my yellow photos to pull up?
Yes.
Okay.
And how you assign colors varies widely. And we came up with a system that we use here in the studio for what we use colors for that makes sense for us. So for example, when we download and import photos, the young ladies that work for us, they've worked for me long enough now that they know that when they're doing this function for us, when they go through Lightroom the first time, they're doing 2 things. Any photograph that's clearly one that we don't want to keep, like it's a photo of my foot or a test shot when we're out photographing a high school senior, anything that is clearly a photo that we're not going to keep, they give it a black flag. Any photo that they think is questionable for any reason, like they think it might not quite be in focus or it might not be a photo that we want to keep, they give it a red color. So when I go through the catalog, I'm looking at anything that they've marked as red to see whether we're going to keep it or not. And then I unread it if we're going to keep it. And if we're not going to keep it, I change its status from red to red with a black flag. And then eventually we delete all those photos. The other thing that they do when they go through the photos is anything that jumps out at them that they think is a particularly great photo, they mark with 1 star. So at the end of the import process, what the young ladies do is they go through, they mark photos that are clearly going to be deleted, they color code red any photos that are suspect, and then anything that they like, they mark with 1 star. And that's the beginning of our process to go from 800 photos down to the 50 that we're going to share with our client. So the other thing that we do with colors is as we're working on photos, if we've created a PSD, a Photoshop file that is not finished, but it's a work in progress, we color code it yellow. So it stands out as a PSD file, but one that's not done. Any photo that is completed and the editing is complete and it's ready to share with the client, we mark as green. We save blue for Becky. So when she's going through the files, if she sees something that she likes, she marks it with blue to tell us that this is one that she particularly likes. So that's how we do it at the studio, okay? That's what we use colors for. In my personal editing, I use colors a different ways. I group photos by, this is all the same thing. Like when I do landscapes, I typically do panoramas and HDR processing. So if I take a pano sequence, all the photos in that one pano sequence, I'll give a color so that I know that they all belong together. You can use these things any way that makes sense to you. All right. So having said that, I'm going to unyellow this one. And I'm going to leave the flag on it. And I'm going to go through the photos real quickly. So I like this one a lot. So I'm going to give this one a pick. I'm going to flag it. So it's now got a flag down in the corner. And I'm going to give it 1 star. Going to come to the next one and say, oh, this is another one of those trips from these first 3 photos were all from a trip I took years ago to the Southwest. It was a rafting trip. Okay. So I'm going to mark the 3 rafting trip photos as yellow in this particular case. And so with all of them selected, if I come up here and click yellow, it will simultaneously mark all of them as yellow, and it didn't. Okay, that's because I didn't group them. It's because I'm an idiot. Okay, so if I go back into the group window now and hit the 7 key, all 3 of these photos are now marked as yellow. So when I unclick them, you can now see that they're all yellow. Okay, so
They're green.
Okay.
Is that yellow? Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Trust me, it's yellow. It does kind of look green. It looks green on my computer to me too, but it's yellow.
Oh, okay.
Because green, the one next to it is now green. That's a difference.
Oh, right. My gosh.
Yeah, I think that yellow should be a little bit more brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down to this photo and I'm going to mark this with a star as well. Just 1 star. Okay. And because this one was taken down in Homer, I'm going to give it a blue color rating. And this photo with the gold pan was also taken in Homer. So I'm going to mark that one blue as well. So I've got 3 photos that are marked yellow, 2 photos that are marked blue. I've got a couple with stars and a couple with flags. Okay. So one way that I can sort files now is I can come up here, see where the word filter is on my computer where I'm hovering right now?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You should see to the right of that flags and some weird symbols, stars, and colors. Are you not seeing that?
I don't have that filter.
Nothing there.
I see it.
If you have the word filter and you don't see any of this stuff next to it, click on the word filter, double click directly on the word filter, and it'll expand it and open that toolbar for you.
Filter.
When I do that, I don't get the colors. I get I get the flags, and I get the funny lines I get the horizontal lines with the vertical slashes, then I get the less than or equal to stars.
Okay, but not the color.
I have, to the right of the stars, I have a bunch of little boxes, and if I hover over them, they say like show photos with red label, but they're not pre-colored like yours are.
Huh, that's weird, but that's them.
I have the same thing.
That's odd. I've never seen that before. I'm making a note.
Yeah, it's like it's there, but it's muted out.
Yeah.
Like it's there. I mean, I can see a muted red, a muted yellow. Maybe it's because I haven't selected a photo that I put red yet.
It's entirely possible. We'll find out in a sec because I've never seen it behave like that, but I'll research that after class to find out why. But so what I want to do now is on my system here, I can go up and click to show photos that are just yellow. And once I click on it, they become a little more vibrant. If I unclick the box, then all the photos come back. I can click on the blue box and just the 2 that are marked blue show up. If I click on the blue box and the yellow box, it will show me both groups. Okay, so we're going to look at just the yellow one. So I'm going to uncheck this. And there's 3 photos that are visible. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here onto the stars, and I'm going to tell it to show me everything with 1 or more stars. So right now in my catalog, I only have 1 photo that is both 1 star or higher and yellow. If I come back and click on the blue, what happens is there is 1 photo that is yellow and 1 star and 1 photo that's blue and 1 star. If I unclick the yellow box, I wind up with just the photo that is blue and has 1 or more stars. So you can use these filters together to filter your catalog down. This is one way to look at photos. It's not the only way.
So I only have 4 color choices. Anybody else have that?
No, I have all of them.
You've only got 4?
I only have red, yellow, green, and blue.
Okay, that's another thing I've never seen before. I'll have to check that afterwards.
I still cannot see that second panel of colors and stars by the filter
Did you
tab.
click on filter?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Gonna play around with it more.
Okay. All right. So does that method of assigning flags, stars, and colors, and then using this filter tool down here work for everybody?
Yes.
Did you
Okay.
say how you unclick it? If you've clicked it, made it a color, how you unclick it? Sorry.
To assign the color or unassign the color?
Unassign the color.
Okay, to unassign the color, you go, there are 2 ways to do it. You focus on the photo, you select the photo you want to adjust, and if it's a color, you just hit the number again. So for example, this photo number 6 here for me is currently blue. If I click off of it, you can see it better. I can come up here and unclick it in the loop view, or I can hit the number 9 and it'll take the color off.
Okay.
All right, there's one other way to get access to this filter bar, and it's the one that Don's been seeing all day. So what I'd like everybody to do is up somewhere near your backspace key, there is a slash symbol, the one that the top of it leans to the left. That's the backslash. Okay. If you hit the backslash key, what it does is it opens up the library filter toolbar at the top.
Say that again.
You hit the backslash key and it should open this up at the top. Anybody not see?
Okay.
I don't see that.
I get the toolbar and it's reduced and everything else has gone away.
Okay, and
Nope, I don't have it either.
I clicked on one of the colors down there by the filter, like custom filter, and now I don't know how to, and it says no photos match the filter. And I don't know how to get back where I was.
just click that same box again.
Oh, I see it.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay, got it. I hit the grid view and it came up.
No,
Okay.
it should automatically, the software should automatically take you from the loop view to the grid view when you hit the backslash key. If it doesn't,
Why is this?
click on the grid symbol down here and then hit that backslash key. And it's not the one that's on the same key with the question mark, it's the other one, which is up near your backspace key.
No.
Who is not there yet? Who is not seeing this toolbar up here? Anybody?
I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing
Okay.
it.
Let's try a different way to get there, Ginger. If you go up to view,
Okay.
the second item down where it says show filter bar,
Yes.
is that highlighted on your computer? Is that checked?
Yes.
Okay, and you're not seeing that toolbar at the top.
No. Am I hitting the wrong key? Let's see.
What should we see when we go up to view?
Hold on a minute, I'm gonna do the annotate thing. I wanna make sure that I'm talking about the right thing. What we're looking for is this box.
Right.
Yeah, I got that.
Marco, I had to bring your screen sharing down because I had you up too high and had you covered up there.
Okay, so this box that's highlighted on my screen, who is not seeing it still?
Okay, so I went to view and I went show filter bar. That's what you wanted to do?
Yep.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I got it now.
Okay, and the backslash key did not get you there?
I was hitting, is it like a reverse backslash?
It's the one that's up near the backspace key.
Yeah, the delete key, like the,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
up in
found
that
it.
corner.
Yeah, I was hitting the wrong key. I was hitting the one with the question mark above it.
Yeah, that's the forward slash.
Okay.
That's Army technology or terminology.
Yes.
I don't know what the rest of the world calls it, but in the Army, that's how you differentiate them.
That's the way I learned it. I'm getting, I start, if I go to the, I'm in the grid view, I've got my images. Well, maybe they're not imported. Anyhow, I push the backslash and I get nothing but the toolbar, and it reduces it, and it's in the middle of the screen.
Chuck, do me a favor real quick and go ahead and share your screen, please. I'm going to stop sharing mine. Okay, that's the import window.
Okay, thought I was in library and on grid.
All right, go ahead and hit the cancel button. No, leave your screen on screen share. Cancel out. I want to watch what you're doing.
All right.
So go back to screen share. All right, so this little dialog box is the import. So click the cancel button on the dialog.
Got it.
All right, so it looks like you're
Partly into trying to import, and I don't know why it's doing that. But.
All right, go up and click that little X at the end of the progress bar, where it says import photos and videos in the upper left corner.
Don't have that.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking on your screen and I see it. Upper left corner, it's where it says Lightroom, the big LR.
Yeah.
Just to the right of it, it says import photos and videos.
It says Adobe Lightroom Classic and my.
That's not what I'm seeing.
Down below, my import button is highlighted like it's ready to go.
That's not what I'm seeing on my screen. Is anybody else seeing it differently?
I see what you're seeing, Marco. I'm seeing import photos, videos with the progress bar with the little X, upper left-hand corner.
Yeah, Chuck,
Don't
unshare
worry
this.
about it.
Say again?
Don't worry
Go
about
ahead
it.
and unshare this and reshare it, would you please? I'm wondering if it's just freezing up.
No, I think I've got too many options on screen share, maybe.
Yeah, because you're back into this what I'm seeing is the import dialog box again.
Yeah. Don't
All
worry
right.
about it.
So click cancel on here, on this dialog box. All right. So in the upper left corner of your screen, what are you seeing right now? Okay.
There
it's
was the import, but it went away.
Okay. So grab the scroll tool way over in the left-hand corner and pull it up so we're at the top of your window here. Okay, so one of the things that's going on is that you've got 32,000 photos in this catalog, but none of them are currently linked.
Correct.
And that's the problem. But this, hold on a minute, I'm gonna, let's see if I can do this. All right, so Chuck, this toolbar is the one that we're talking about. That's what I wanted you to be able to see.
Oh, yeah, all right.
All right, so we're good. All right, so go ahead and unshare, please.
Okay.
All right, so in true Adobe fashion, this is yet another way to filter stuff, because these tools, when you get into the library filter, you should have text, attribute, metadata, and none. So with attribute clicked and highlighted, we get the same filters that we get down here, and they work exactly the same way. I can filter to 1 star, I get 4, and then I can say how many of those are yellow, and I got 1. It's the same tools, and in fact, as I click up here, you'll see that it's mirrored down here what I've selected. It's just another way to get at the filter toolbar.
I wonder why I don't see the whole bar. I only see up to the stars.
Huh, and are you seeing that at the top as well?
Yeah, up at the top I see it, and it's almost like I should be able to go over and see it, but I can't. It's like I can see like there's more that direction.
Okay, do me a favor, Tina, go ahead and share your screen if you would real quick.
I gotta remember how every time. Share screen. Share screen, Lightroom.
Okay, so do me a favor and grab that thing and pull it as far to the right as you can.
I was trying and it's not doing it. It's like showing like it should.
All
and
right,
then-
that's probably as small as it can get. So go over to the far right-hand side of the screen, and that little arrow about halfway down the screen that will resize the screen, click that,
Okay.
and it should hide the panel.
Oh, it should hide the panel.
Yeah. There.
Oh, okay. There they are.
They were off the screen. And this is why, particularly on smaller screens, you've got this real estate management problem. So they were there, you just couldn't see them.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
All right. So go ahead and unshare, please. All right. So, how's everybody doing?
I have a question.
Okay. Go ahead.
So I'm on the same that attribute tab, and I'm seeing the color panel, but I'm not seeing the stars as highlighted. That like I had a photo that I rated 3 stars, and then it's not.
So when you come up here and click on the 3rd star, nothing shows up?
I can click the number of stars and it will show the photos that I have rated 3 stars.
That's
But
what it's
when,
supposed to do.
okay, it's like a sorter.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a
Yeah.
filter. So what this is that if you've got, for me, if I click 3 stars, I get 1 photo. If I go to 4 stars, I don't get anything because I don't have anything I've rated 4 stars.
Sure. I guess I didn't kind of say it right. I think what I'm saying was that whenever I was just not seeing your stars as highlighted with all of your photos in a row. It doesn't look the same as mine, but just probably a different version. Never mind that. Sorry.
Okay. All right, so this is another way to do the same filtering that's available down here. There's some other options up here that we'll talk about next time where we can filter for text or we can filter for metadata. And this one can be really important. We'll talk about these next time, but this is the library filter. So when I say we need to look at the library filter, this is where we need to go. And when we get there next time, I'll remind you, but really, really powerful filtering tools available up here. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna hide this toolbar right now on my computer, excuse me, by hitting the / key and it will go away. And the / key again, remember, is the one up near your delete or backspace key. Anybody not able to get it to disappear? Okay. All right, so what I want to do now is talk, we're going to get into keywording next time because keywording, yeah, I'm going to stay on the left panel. So we're going to talk real quickly about collections. Okay, collections, the collections panel here, this portion of it, shows up in multiple modules in Lightroom. Okay, the two most important are it shows up in library, shows up in develop, and it shows up in slideshow. Okay, so collections are yet another way to group photos. Okay, and you can make a collection out of any photos that are in your catalog in any way that makes sense. So for example, I'm going to make a collection and I'm going to call it Utah. Okay, so I'm going to come down here to collections. I'm going to click on the plus. I'm going to create a collection. Okay, very first choice. And when I click on it, it pops up a dialog box where it says create a collection. It says give it a name. So I'm going to call this Utah. All right. For my purposes, I'm going to come down here and uncheck this box that says include selected photos. We'll come back to that in a second. Okay. So I don't want any of these other boxes checked. I'm just going to create a collection. When I click create, the collection shows up over here and it tells me I have no photos in it. Okay. So these 3 photos that happen to also be yellowed, I all took on my trip to Utah. So I'm going to select all 3 of them. Then I'm going to click and hold and drag them up in here to Utah. And now when I click on the Utah, just those 3 photos are in there. Okay. Now I'm going to get out of here, I need to go back to all photos in the catalog. And this takes me back to everything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another collection and I'm going to call this one Rivers, but I'm going to create this one a different way. There are 3 photos in here that have rivers in them. This photo, and then I'm going to control click on the one with the birds because that's actually a river. I'm going to click on this crappy photo and then the one with the gold pan. All 4 of those photos have rivers in them. So for me, this makes sense. So now I'm going to come up to collection. I'm going to click on the plus. I'm going to tell it to create a collection. I'm going to give it the name of rivers. But this time, I'm going to come down and check this box that says include selected photos. And when I do that and click create, this time it creates the collection, adds those 4 photos to it, and opens the collection for me. So now I have 2 collections, Rivers with these 4 photos, Utah with these 3 photos. Okay, and to get out of these, again, I click on all photographs and it takes me back to the main catalog. Okay, there are other ways to get out of here as well. Okay, so another thing that I could do is I could create yet another collection. The number of collections you can have in a catalog is unlimited for all practical purposes. How you create collections and why you create them is entirely up to you. The thing is that you're not moving the photo. and a photo can be in multiple collections. So for example, this photo here, number 3, it is in the Utah collection and it's also in the Rivers collection. Any changes that I make to a photo anywhere, as far as metadata goes or developing goes, shows up every place that it exists. So if I made changes to this photo, okay, and I'm going to get ahead of the classroom, I'm going to drop over to the develop module, and real quickly I'm going to make some adjustments to this photo. Nothing really drastic. Okay, so those changes I'm happy with. So now when I go back to the develop module, if I go to all photographs in the main collection and look at this photo, the changes I made in the develop module are here. When I go down to the Utah collection, they're here. And when I'm in the Rivers collection, they're here. So just the same way that you can be a member of the library and the Kiwanis and the Boy Scouts and the JCs, photos can be members of multiple collections. You can make as many as you want. The big thing to remember is that they're not in a world unto themselves. If you do anything to the photograph, those changes are everywhere in all of the collections that it belongs to.
Hey, Marco?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
If you have that photo that you're looking at right here, if you have it in a folder and then you put it in a collection, but you still had it in the folder, and then you said, I don't want to keep this collection, I'm just going to delete this collection, does that delete it out of the folder too?
No, it does not. So for example, this photo is in the class photos folder 1 folder. This is where that photo really lives. The collections are just groups that it's joined. So I'm going to decide that this Utah collection is stupid because actually it wasn't Utah, it was Colorado. So I'm going to get rid of this collection. I'm going to right click on it and it pops up a dialog, and one of the options is delete. So when I click on it, I'll get a warning to say that, hey, this collection has 3 photos in it. It will tell me these photos will remain in your catalog and may still be referenced, but the collection is gone. It's no longer there, but the photos still remain.
Okay, thank you.
So how do you add to a collection? Like, okay, you have 3 photos in a certain collection, and how do you add more?
Okay, so let's go back to the Rivers collection. It's got 4 photos in it right now. So I'm going to go back to up here to see everything. I'm going to click on my folder. And I've decided that for some inexplicable reason, I want to add this photo to the Rivers collection. Okay? All right, because I know there's a river just out of view. All right, because I'm psycho like that. All right, so with this selected, I can click right in the middle of the thumbnail, click and hold, I can drag it and add it to the collection. And now that photo is in the collection.
Click and hold.
And drag.
Okay, drag.
But then after I get it in here, I come to my senses and go, well, there's really no river in this photo. I want it out of the collection. The simplest way to delete a photo from a collection is to highlight it and push the delete key, and it will disappear from the collection.
Okay, just, okay, drag and drop. Okay.
Drag and drop, and then to delete them, just hit the delete key in the collection and it'll drop it, it'll delete it from the collection. The delete key will behave differently someplace else.
So this picture,
Go ahead.
this picture you changed in Lightroom. When you say you didn't open Lightroom and you went to it on your on your computer, it wouldn't be changed, correct? That's the digital negative.
That's correct, because the original version of this photo is, hold on a minute. This is the file information, and you can see it ends in CR2. The original is a raw file. So this is a preview, and this version of this photo only exists in Lightroom until I export a copy of it. That copy will include all the changes and will look like this.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to about where I wanted to get today. We're going to pick up with the library module on Thursday. We'll talk about keywording. How many of you have used Lightroom and are inclined to keyword your photographs? Okay, Lorelai?
I started
Slowly.
keywording. I started keywording because I thought that was a good idea, but I've never used it as a search modality.
All right.
Try.
It is a great way to search if it works for you. Like I said, we used the keyword here aggressively, and then we discovered the same thing that Anita did, was that's not how we searched for photos that we were looking for. So all the time we were spending keywording was wasted time, so we stopped doing it.
So how would you search for, say, portrait? No, that's too general. Say river.
Well, the thing is that we discovered that we never did searches like that. Because of the way that we work, we don't do that. Now, I'll go back to, I'll pick on Ed Boudreau again, since he's not a member of the class, but Ed does lots of landscapes. And he does landscapes in Alaska and out of Alaska. So for him, let's assume that Ed's keeping all of his photos in a single catalog. One way that might be worthwhile for him to keyword is to add Alaska or the name of the state, so that he said, well, I want to, I went to Arizona last year. I want to find all the pictures from Arizona. If he had keyworded them with Arizona, he could use that as a way to filter and search to find just the photos that he took in Arizona. And if he said, I want rivers in Arizona, if rivers was another keyword that he included, he could search for everything that included Arizona and rivers. And now the software is going to go through the entire catalog and find just those photos that are keyworded with both Arizona and rivers.
See, I can see the power in that. I think I would like to continue my efforts to keyword all my photos so that someday when I get done with that project, I can go in and I can say, oh man, I want to look for the moose with the berries. What folder did I put that in? And it's been 3 years, just be able to.
And that's why a lot of people do keyword, because they do search like that. It's
Yeah.
just, for us, it turned out after years of keywording, we discovered we were never using keywords to find things. So I told the girls, I'm not paying you to keyword stuff anymore. Stop it. It's amazing how fast they do stuff when you say,
I'm not paying you.
keyword for 8 hours, you're on your own time. And they're like, yeah, we're good. We're totally good. I'm a horrible boss. They really.
I'd like to continue pursuing my keywording, just because I think there are some photos that are falling into crevices that I might not find otherwise, that are in folders that you can't name a folder that embraces every single aspect of every single folder and photo in the folder. And like I said, moose with berries, or cat with feather, or stuff like that that's obscure. It'd be neat to be able to find things that way, although I'm not there yet because I'm having to go through a lot of photos and keyword stuff that I haven't kept up with the way I need to.
We'll talk more about keywording, obviously, next time. But where I want to leave everybody is with two general thoughts. It's really important that you have thought through the best way for you to create your file structure about where and how you store your photos. Okay, I have a very particular file structure that works for me because it mirrors the way that I think. Becky thinks it's the stupidest thing she's ever seen, and she hates it because it's not the way that she thinks. Becky creates files in her personal Lightroom catalog. Her file structure to me is Byzantine. I don't get it, but it works for her, and it doesn't need to work for me because I don't use her stuff. I learned years ago to stay out of Becky's stuff. Just saying.
Mm, good thing.
So
Very wise.
the way that you physically store the photos on your computer needs to make sense for you. Okay. It doesn't matter whether it makes sense to me or some guy that writes a blog about the right way to use Lightroom. If it makes sense to you, it's going to help you find stuff. The second thing is, and it's where I wanted to leave you with thoughts for next time, is think about if you are inclined or think that you're inclined to want to use keywords to search and find photographs in your catalog, think about the keywords that you're most likely to use. Without going into detail, you can what they call nest or parent keywords. So for example, I talked about Ed Boudreau having Alaska and Arizona and Utah and California as potential locations for keywords. You can put all of those inside of other keywords so that they're grouped together, right? So for example, all of the locations could be under a general keyword category of location. So Alaska and all the states, some folks that are Alaska photographers will have their keywords where they'll have Alaska as a keyword and then outside. And then under outside, they've got different states, they've got different countries. If you're inclined to keyword, think through the type of photography that you do and how you would want to, 2 years from now, find a photo that you took 2 years ago on a trip. And what are the keywords that you would use to go back through your entire 45,000 photos in your catalog and find the moose with the berries? Because if that's something that you look for, you know, like if you are a wildlife photographer, almost all wildlife photographers that I know, when they keyword, they include the name of the animals that are in the photo, like swans, geese, ducks, lions, bears, tigers, whatever. Okay, so that's an important thing, is to think through what kind of keywords you might want to use, because you don't want to randomly willy-nilly create keywords that you wind up not using because it clutters your screen in the end.
Makes sense.
All right, so any last questions that anybody's got before we sign off for today? Anything that you think I rushed through or we didn't cover adequately? I know a lot of it was like super geeky, tedious stuff, but I think it's important to understand that some of the back end stuff.
No,
Forgive
no,
me,
it's
pacing around.
not too much for me. And you definitely explained a whole bunch of things that I'd never even knew I needed to think about. So your selection of what to cover was spot on.
Okay,
Yeah,
Tina,
I
you were
agree.
I was gonna say, forgive me for pacing around. I picked today to get some kind of a stomach bug and I'm dying.
oh, dear.
Oh, no.
So sorry.
So hopefully I'll be better on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, so
Sorry you're dying, but I sure like your still life.
Oh, thank you.
so one of the things is all of you have different combinations of computer processors and version of Lightroom. So everybody's circumstance is going to be a little bit different. If it seems like there's something that we didn't cover adequately today, let me know, send me an email, and we can do a private Zoom to look at just your thing and make sure that we're up to speed. This is the part that I normally would be able to do if you were in the studio. I could sit down next to you and during the lunch break we could work through this, but I can't do that. So the only way I can do it is to set up a separate Zoom so that we can share screens and look at stuff and make sure that we've worked out any issues that you've got. Okay, so any questions? What I'd like you to do between now and Thursday is explore some of the stuff that we covered. If you haven't done it before, play with collections, play with flags, stars, and colors. Practice selecting and unselecting 1, 2, or 30 photographs so that you can do that sort of stuff. And don't worry, the chances of you actually breaking anything playing with this software are not quite zero, but pretty close to it, okay? That's one of the great things about Lightroom is there's very few things you can't recover from in Lightroom. Okay.
Okay, so how many average photos should we import for practicing for the class?
If you don't have them, somewhere 30 or so is a good number
30.
to practice the things that we want to practice.
Okay, 30 photos import. Okay.
Okay, so having said that, unless someone's got a question, that's going to kind of be the end of it. I asked Don to stick around for a couple minutes after the rest of you dropped off.
Okay.
So if you could each individually drop off when you're ready, that would be wonderful. And I'll see you at 9 a.m. on Thursday.
Thank you.